We see an aerial view of the city of Nanrong. It is the big day for the high school seniors. The class awakening ceremony, held right in front of that massive, dimensional rift known as the Demon Abyss. Inside a school bus, the atmosphere is heavy with nerves. All the students are talking about the same thing, anxious to know what class they will awaken today. In the midst of the commotion, Jian opens his eyes wide, looking completely disoriented and terrified, as if he had just woken up from a nightmare. He looks around in confusion, recognizing the bus and his classmates. He sighs in relief, realizing he has truly returned to the past. Jianyang identifies the exact moment. It is graduation day, when his whole class went to the Abyss Station to awaken their abilities. He does the math quickly and realizes he is exactly 2.5 years away from the moment. The city of Nanrong is wiped off the map. 12 years ago, these rifts appeared out of nowhere across the world, and monsters began to slaughter humanity without mercy. Humans tried to defend themselves, but they discovered that inside those zones, firearms and nuclear weapons were rendered useless by magic. Fortunately, it was discovered that anyone turning 18 can awaken a class upon coming into contact with the energy of a rift. After 5 years of bloody fighting, the awakened gained innate abilities, and finally had a real chance against the monsters. Over time, they took control of the entrances, and society changed entirely, dividing itself into a new class system based on the power of each individual. Now every graduate must go to awaken their class, which are basically divided into 3 types: combat, support, and creation. Combat classes are the most valued, while creators are looked down upon by everyone. Jianyang remembers that in his previous life, he awakened a rank F creation class, the lowest that exists. But he had a secret, a divine innate ability called Modify. By changing just one word in the name of an item or skill, he could turn trash into treasure. In his past life, he made the mistake of exposing this gift, and the people in power summoned him immediately to put him at their service. They forced him to work without rest, turning common scrap into powerful divine artifacts for the benefit of the elites. They were so afraid of his potential that they kept him under house arrest, controlling his every move so he wouldn't grow on his own. It all ended when a giant level 96 dragon attacked the city. Jianyang was barely level 70, and it seems someone left him to die on purpose to get rid of him. On the verge of death, he activated his ability and changed Resurrect to Rebirth. That is how Jianyang managed to return to the past with his memories intact. The bus announces they are almost at the Rift Station. The students prepare to get off and face their destiny. Jianyang knows it doesn't matter who tried to kill him before. With his ability this time, he only plans to trust himself. The vehicle crosses the infected zone as it approaches the terminal. Jianyang vows that this time he won't tell anyone about his true power. Keeping his ability hidden is the only way he has to protect his friends, his family, and the entire city. His expression is one of total determination. He will dedicate himself to growing in silence to become strong enough to save himself. They finally arrive at the Hunters Association headquarters, where the Awakening Plaza is located. Several students are terrified, praying not to awaken a useless rank F creation class, but everyone keeps looking at Jianyang with envy. He is the school's #1 in both literary and martial arts, so they expect him to pull something epic. At that moment, Yang Bei, the eternal second place of the class, appears, dropping his usual heavy comments. Yang mocks him, saying that even someone with high magical affinity can end up awakening. A trash class. The professor calls Jianyang to go first. He hopes that, as the star student, he will set a good example for the others. The graduate walks up the stairs toward the center of the ceremony, while everyone watches intently. The head of the ceremony announces at the top of his lungs that it is the turn of the genius of Nanrong High School. Jianyang walks to the central platform. The pressure is enormous, but he remains imperturbable. Unlike everyone else who is expectant, Jianyang has known the result for a long time. His classmates and even the professor are tense, praying under their breath that he doesn't get a technical class. Yang Bei takes the opportunity to mock him again, calling him a suburban ghost and wishing for him to fail. Jianyang places his hand on the crystal ball, and several magic circles begin to glow around him. A white radiance comes from the crystal as the awakening process reaches its peak. The whole room lights up as a spiral of energy envelops Jianyang completely. Suddenly, the large screen projects the final result in front of the crowd. His class is Repairer. The details on the screen confirm it. Jianyang has 100% perfect magical affinity, but his class is a creation type and rank F. The school's genius has just become the laughingstock of everyone. The professor is in total shock. He cannot believe that the best student in the school, the one who worked the hardest of all, ended up with such a mediocre creation class. But not everyone is sad about the result. Yang Bei bursts out laughing. He always knew that despite his grades, Jianyang would end up being a pathetic technician. Jianyang, you kept me down for 3 years. But look at what a shameful class you got. Yang yells while mocking him in front of all his classmates. Another instructor tries to be positive. commenting that being a repairer isn't that bad. At least he can open a shop and earn good money fixing the equipment of real warriors. Suddenly, the crystal ball glows again with a bluish intensity. Jianyang still has his hands on it, and the process seems not to have finished. The professor almost falls out of his chair seeing it. The ball keeps reacting. This kid is about to awaken a dual class. He screams, completely out of his mind. Awakening two classes is extremely rare, a phenomenon reserved only for geniuses destined to be the most powerful. The professor now expects a miracle. Jianyang is trapped in the center of a massive whirlwind of golden light and data fragments. It seems that fate is really going to give him a second chance, but reality hits him with a bucket of cold water. On the holographic screen, the name of his second class appears in giant letters, Farmer. There are his final statistics, 100% perfect magical affinity. But with the classes Repairer and Farmer, I'm both at rank F. It is officially the most useless combo ever seen. The teachers don't know whether to laugh or cry in frustration. A case of a dual class occurs once in 10,000, and he gets stuck with a double. They say each class he awakens is trashier than the previous one. The students explode in humiliating laughter. They mock that the great genius, #1 in literature and martial arts, now only serves to fix things and plant lettuce. Without saying a single word, Jianyang simply begins to step off the platform, while listening to everyone, whispering jokes behind his back. Poor kid, what bad luck he has, the teachers comment, with a look full of pity. They cannot believe that such a prodigy has become social trash from one moment to the next. But Jianyang is not affected in the slightest by what they say. He walks with a firm step toward the exit while everyone watches, him with contempt or false compassion. Trash. Bad luck, thinks the protagonist with a defiant smile. He knows perfectly well that although his classes are the lowest of the low, his true power is somewhere else. Because what he really awakened along with those classes was an innate ability that completely breaks the laws of this world. That is his true trump card, Modify, an ability that allows him to change a single word of any name, so that the result is something totally different. With a quick gesture, Jianyang prepares to test his gift for the first time in this new life, starting with his own abilities. He looks at his farmer class. Its initial ability is Accelerate Growth, something that only serves to make plants grow a little faster, a real piece of junk for a warrior. But he activates his power and poof, he changes Accelerate Growth to Resurrect. Now he can revive any target, including himself, and heal any damage for only 100 mana. The guy smiles to himself. He knows that if he uses this power intelligently, he will have the most powerful tool to dominate everyone who is laughing at him today. Already in the city, he stops to look at the giant screens that show the rankings of the best newly awakened rookies. His goal is clear. He is going to reach the top of all those lists. He feels very confident in himself. He knows that when the time comes, all those classes will learn the true terror of being dominated by a simple rank F. His ambition is evident in his gaze. In this life, he does not intend to be anyone's toy. He is going to become the strongest by following only his own path. With that in mind, he heads immediately to the rookie training base, the perfect place for beginners to start farming their first levels. That complex is full of weak creatures from the abyss, raised in captivity so that rookies can gain experience without running real risks of death. But Jianyang doesn't just want to train. He plans to break the base's speed record. That would give him the necessary points to secure his entry into the best university in the country. He approaches the entrance with an enviable calm. He is not just coming to level up. He is coming to show that the system's labels mean nothing to him. The instructor in charge checks his file and is left open-mouthed. Jianyang, the best student with a rank F dual awakening? He mutters, unable to understand what went wrong. The officer asks him very seriously if he is sure he wants to enter the dungeon alone. For a rank F, even the lowest level can be deadly if he is not careful. Another instructor puts his hand on his shoulder in a gesture of support and advises him to find a team with his classmates instead to avoid risking his life unnecessarily. But our protagonist doesn't intend to take a single step back. I'm totally sure. Please give me the basic rookie gear right now, he replies firmly. The instructors simply sigh and look at each other. They think the poor boy is just hurt in his pride, and that he wants to prove something impossible out of pure whim. One of them gives him an iron sword, and to his surprise, gives him something additional. Here is your equipment. Try not to die in there, says the officer with a compassionate tone. Jianyang notes the difference in their attitude. The instructors immediately handed over the gear. In his past life, he was only given the sword, but this time, out of pure pity, they gifted him an extra pair of leather boots. The equipment is basic. A level 1 iron sword that adds 5 to his attack power and level 1 leather boots that provide a small speed bonus. Nothing impressive, but it will do. It seems they really are looking down on me, Jianyang thinks. He knows they gave him the boots out of sympathy, but he won't reject anything that helps him advance faster. The guy walks through the portal with the sword over his shoulder. If the rabbits corner you, call for help and we'll come get you out, the guards shout from the entrance, without stopping or looking back. The protagonist just raises his hand to thank them. He has much more important things to do than listen to warnings. The heavy metal doors close behind him with a dull thud. Now he is completely alone in the darkness. Far from the mocking and pity of others, the moment of truth has arrived. Junyoung stops and activates his Modify ability. The air fills with fragments of green data as he prepares to warp reality. He tests his ability immediately. His old level 1 iron sword receives a massive upgrade and transforms into a steel sword, gaining much more attack power and armor penetration. But he doesn't stop there. He also modifies his basic leather boots, turning them into wind boots, drastically increasing his movement speed and agility. I could turn it into a sacred or magical sword right now, Junyoung thinks as he admires the new shine on his modified weapon. However, he remembers that there are surveillance cameras all over the place and decides it is better not to stand out too much for the moment to avoid raising suspicions. He knows full well what happens when someone shows off their talent prematurely. The shadows of his past life remind him of the betrayals and greedy hands that surrounded him back then. Even though a level 1 piece of equipment isn't a huge deal after being modified, for his current plans, it is more than enough to begin his training massacre. The training field is well structured. It has a basic zone for practice, an advanced one for those looking for a challenge, and finally the boss zone. If one really wants to test themselves and break records, they must venture into the darkness of the advanced zone, where dozens of red eyes lurk in the bushes waiting for prey. The final objective to achieve the clearance record is simple but brutal. Find and eliminate a great charge rabbit king that leads the zone. But first he has to deal with the adult charge rabbits. They are level 1 beasts with skulls, armored by crystal and an extremely violent temperament. Junyoung prepares for action. His goal is to reach level 5 quickly, and for that, he calculates he will have to dispatch at least 100 of these irritating creatures. The rabbits don't keep him waiting, letting out war cries as they launch their attack with their reinforced heads, ready to charge at the intruder. A true tide of long ears and red eyes surges toward the protagonist, covering the entire path in front of him in a suicidal rush. The plan is clear. Only when he reaches level, can he leave this initial zone behind and challenge the next stage? The dreaded wolf and clone base. The battle breaks out with fury. A rabbit jumps with force to charge him, but Junyoung has his eyes set on the future. This place is the perfect paradise to level up quickly. With fluid movements and trails of blue energy, the protagonist weaves through the horde. He trusts that this pace will get him to level 10 in the blink of an eye. He moves like lightning between the beasts, slashing and dodging with precision that no other rookie of his class could even dream of. And it is because upon reaching level 10, he will unlock his legendary awakened innate ability, a god-grade technique capable of creating, in theory, ultimate magical beasts. The determination in his gaze is absolute. Nothing and no one will stop him on his path to becoming the strongest warrior of this new era in which he is reincarnated. Meanwhile, he wonders what his old rival Jongbei is doing. By now, he has surely gone through the Great Awakening ceremony at school. Back in the school gym, it is finally Jongbei's turn. The guy approaches, the crystal ball with a mix of nerves and his usual arrogance. He is desperate to obtain any class that surpasses Junyoung's rank F. Even a rank B or C would serve to trample him once and for all, he thinks maliciously. Suddenly, the crystal ball reacts with unprecedented violence, releasing bursts of energy that light up the entire hall and leave everyone expectant. On the giant screen appears a word that leaves everyone speechless for a second. Berserker, surrounded by an intimidating aura of fire and combat power. The statistics don't lie. Jongbei has awakened a rank A combat class with a 69% magical affinity, an exceptional result for any student. Ha ha ha, I won! Jongbei yells at the top of his lungs in front of the crowd, celebrating his personal success as if he were already the owner of the entire world. The rest of the students are in shock. After 3 long years of being in Junyoung's shadow, Jongbei has finally managed to surpass him with a superior class. From now on, nobody dare mention the words second place in front of me, Yang exclaims as he adjusts his tie with unbearable arrogance. A wicked, superiority-filled smile draws across his face. He knows that the balance of power in the room has changed radically in his favor. In the last year of Class 1, now there is only one first place, he says while pointing his thumb down disparagingly. And that is me, Jongbei. His followers don't take long to surround him to praise his great luck. What is that piece of trash Junyoung going to do, fight you now? They say amid mocking laughter. Bei revels in his own glory and asks, aloud where the dual classer could have gone to hide his shame and mediocrity. One of his cronies informs him immediately that he saw him heading toward the rookie training base just a few moments ago. With a look charged with bad intentions, the group decides to go after him. That trash must be having a really hard time. Let's go give him a little help, they suggest with cruel sarcasm. As they walk away, the other students look at them with a certain pity for Junyoung. They know that Bei just wants to humiliate him publicly one more time, taking advantage of his head start. One student remembers aloud how hard Junyoung worked, studying in the classroom until late at night. even when the rest had already gone to rest. Another remembers seeing him training without pause on the track, until extreme exhaustion, pushing his physical limits day after day without fail, even in the magical training room. Jianyang used to set the pain level to the maximum and wouldn't even let out a whimper. His willpower was, without a doubt, pure iron. It's incredible that someone who tried so hard ended up with the most useless F-class of all, comments the boy with glasses with deep sadness. Suddenly, Wang Qingfeng, the second best student after Jianyang, intervenes while enjoying his lollipop with complete tranquility.
His class will not limit his growth, he asserts with certainty.
Wang Qingfeng was always one step behind the protagonist in everything and knows better than anyone. The monster of discipline and determination that Jianyang really is. No one knows better than me how desperately hard that guy works to get what he wants, concludes Wang with a look full of respect and great expectation. During the grade finals in their first year, that guy thanks Wang Qingfeng as he dives into the memories of his rookie days. In his memory, Jianyang appears exhausted and wounded in the middle of a fight, but maintaining an unbreakable fighting stance. It was at that moment of pure willpower that he completely earned Wang's respect. Zhang Bei wants to cause trouble. I'll go take a look too, decides Wang Qingfeng as he savors his lollipop with a calculating expression. He walks with a firm step through the school halls, making his inner message clear. The rival I recognize can only be defeated by me. Whoever dares to touch him, let them dare to try to pass over me. Meanwhile, in the depths of the training field, Jianyang rests panting heavily. His current body is still too weak for the frenetic pace he has imposed on himself. He is sitting on a literal mountain of defeated rabbit corpses. Attracting and killing more than 100 monsters in one go is still too much for this body, he murmurs, knowing that only the final obstacle remains. Suddenly before him emerges the imposing level C charge, Rabbit King. It is a massive beast with an elemental crystal, armor on its forehead, and a temperament charged with pure violence. Jianyang checks his status. Level 4 with 94% experience. However, the previous effort has left him with serious internal injuries, and the pain threatens to cloud his senses at the worst possible moment. The Rabbit King doesn't give him time to recover. The monster lowers its head, accumulating devastating physical power in the large orange crystal on its forehead. The boss launches its final attack. With blinding speed, it becomes a projectile of fur and energy that shatters the ground in its path in a suicidal charge against the protagonist. Jianyang activates the power of his modified wind boots, which glow with an aura of green data. He knows that a head-on collision would be his end, but he already has a master strategy to ensure victory. The Charge Rabbit King wastes no time and activates its special ability, a fire headbutt coming straight for Jianyang. But Jianyang was already waiting for it. With a snap of his fingers, he activates his own ability, Modify. The trick is simple. He changes the word headbutt to detonation. Now, instead of an attack, the rabbit is going to explode from within, taking Jianyang and itself out in the process. The crystal on the rabbit's forehead glows with unbearable intensity right before it bursts. Boom! A massive explosion shakes the entire place, leaving only smoke and rubble. Jianyang emerges from the dust cloud with a side smile. That small change was enough to bump him to level 5 in one hit. Outside, on the giant screen, a notification appears that leaves everyone speechless. Jianyang has just broken the world record for dungeon clearing. The students can't believe what they are seeing. The guy brought the record time down to less than half. Something that seems impossible for a rank F Zhang Bei as sparks fly, and sweating with rage. Zhang Bei begins to scream that Jianyang must have cheated somehow. The news spreads rapidly while everyone remains glued to the screen, wondering how a trash rank could have pulled off such a feat. Zhang Bei crosses his arms, determined to unmask what he believes is a monumental fraud. Meanwhile, in a quieter spot, Jianyang rests surrounded by a green aura as his Resurrect ability begins to heal his wounds. He knows that what is coming is much worse. He remembers the Cyclone Wolf King perfectly, a boss that gave him far too many problems in his past life. He stands up and grips his sword firmly. It is time to settle some scores. Jianyang walks with a relaxed pace, as if he were out for a stroll, despite the danger looming ahead. Finally, he arrives at the base of the Cyclone Wolf, a site many call the Rookie Slaughterhouse. In this zone, the wolves range from level 6 to 9, and the king reaches level 10. For low-level students, it is a death sentence. The images of other students being massacred by these beasts are not exaggerated. The strength of these wolves is terrifying, but the risk is worth it. The experience rewards here are so high that one could reach level 10 in a single attempt. Jianyang visualizes the prize. Level 10 is where things get interesting, and new abilities are awakened. Reaching that level usually takes a normal student 10 days, but he does not have that much time. The wolves lurk in the shadows, waiting for their next prey among the desert rocks. Furthermore, being level 10 gives him the legal permit to train alone in the open field, something vital for his plans. At the entrance, an instructor stops him dead in his tracks. He cannot believe a brat wants to enter a place where teams of 6 are required. The instructor tells him the story of a rank A genius who ended up crippled for trying to play the hero in this base. He looks at Jianyang with total contempt. To him, a rank F attempting this is simply suicide. Jianyang does not flinch. He thanks him for the advice, but clarifies that he has already made his decision. The man turns away, indignant. If the kid wants to die, he is not going to be the one to stop him. Jianyang doesn't care that they look down on him. He keeps walking, ignoring the barking of those who do not trust him. As soon as he enters, the wolves appear, baring their fangs, ready to tear him to pieces. Without hesitation, Jianyang lunges straight toward the pack at full speed, drawing his sword and making it glow. It has been a long time, he thinks as he prepares to test his blade. From a platform, the instructor observes the fight, convinced that he is watching a doomed idiot. He mocks him, thinking that Jianyang believes he is a genius for charging head-on, calling him trash. But Jianyang begins to deliver slashes as if it were nothing. The wolves fall one after another, and the experience points don't stop climbing. The instructor freezes. He doesn't understand how the kid can be so calm, killing wolves without using a single special ability. He starts to break into a cold sweat. The idea that this boy is a hidden genius begins to haunt his head. Some time passes and the scene is insane. A mountain of wolf corpses with Jianyang sitting on top, covered in blood. The instructor is in absolute shock. Now he is convinced that Jianyang is a true monster. He fears that if Jianyang sees him, he will humiliate him for everything he said earlier. So he decides to sneak away in silence. Jianyang, covered in wounds and blood, reaches level 9. He knows that if it weren't for his resurrection ability, he would have died 10 times in this place. The description of his ability is clear. It costs 100 mana, but it heals you completely, even if you are already dead. A cheat code advantage for any fight. Jianyang stands over a mountain of dead wolves, thinking that these creatures are much faster and smarter than the rabbits. It is a different level of danger. He looks at his blood-stained clothes. Even though he used his resurrection ability, the pain of the wounds remains. But that is not going to stop him. Now, with a fixed gaze and his weapon dripping, he says that to change his destiny, this pain is a trifle not even worth mentioning. In the gloom appears a huge silhouette with glowing eyes. It is time for the kings to face each other. The Cyclone Wolf King lets out a roar that rumbles throughout the desert, warning that it will not be easy prey. There he is, level 10. His fur resonates with the wind, which allows him to reach absurd speeds when he runs. Jianyang analyzes him calmly. He has already identified his two main tricks, Wind Speed and Wind Blade Claw. The abilities are lethal. One increases his speed significantly, and the other launches cutting wind bursts from a distance. He thinks these techniques do not have much room to be modified, and if he tries to force a change, he could end up making a fatal mistake. The beast lunges at him with the full weight of the wind. Jianyang wonders what the best move is right now, and he is clear. He rips his shirt off in a single pull to be more comfortable in the fight. He decides to resolve it the hard way, facing the beast bare-chested with only his sword. He knows that besides his broken abilities, he is also the #1 in literary and martial arts. He jumps into the air with incredible force, looking for the wolf's blind spot to land the killing blow. He releases a slash charged with blue energy that cuts through the air. He moves so fast he looks like lightning. Far from there, at the entrance of the training zone, a group of students breathes a sigh of relief for having survived by a miracle. The instructors in green trench coats are giving them a stern scolding for entering the advanced zone while being such rookies. One of the students cannot contain his envy. He doesn't understand how he almost died with a team. While Jianyang cleared the zone alone, his classmates are absolutely sure that Jianyang cheated. Rage is evident on their faces. Just then, the giant screen confirms the unthinkable. Jianyang killed the Wolf King and set a new record at the top. People are going crazy. The previous record was almost an hour and a half, and this guy cut it down by half an hour in one single blow. We see Zhang Bei looking at the board with a hatred that leaks from his eyes. He doesn't plan to let it stay like this. The guy is convinced that Jianyang is a cheater and swears he is going to ruin his reputation in front of everyone. He takes his followers to the wolf base, supposedly to support Jianyang. But we already know he is only looking for ways to trample him. Back to our protagonist. His sword rests on the corpse of the Wolf King. The battle ended with this last boss. Jianyang reaches level 10. Now he can awaken his second innate ability. The system grants him durability and a farmer ability called plant crafting. At first glance, it seems useless. We see his updated profile. Level 10, rank F, and his 4 innate abilities ready to be used. Jianyang is excited about his new toy. He activates Modify to do his thing again. He transforms plant crafting into universal crafting, a god-tier ability to create the most broken magical beasts that exist. This ability allows for mixing species to create superior beings. Upon reaching level 10, the success probability is 100%. Although it has its limits, Jianyang knows perfectly well that he has the greatest power of all in his hands. With this, any beast that is already strong can gain even more powerful racial abilities. It is even possible to create a legendary S-rank beast by mixing 2 A-rank ones. It is basically cheating. and if he uses a tamer scroll, he can get a battle pet that is completely loyal. Jianyang remembers with rage how others hung onto his medals in his previous life, thanks to his abilities. He sees the silhouettes of those who exploited him while he was on his knees, unable to defend himself, but not this time. He is covered in blood, but with his sword firm. He swears that no one will ever use him again. He looks at the desert full of dead wolves and thinks it was a good day. It is time to head back. He finds a green magic crystal that a wolf dropped. It is a very rare object used to dope equipment. He thinks the crystals in this base belong to the association, but since he is already level 10, he can finally go to the wild zone without asking for permission. Out there, everything he finds will be his. With that, his money problems will vanish in the blink of an eye. Jianyang complains about the pain. The wounds are not fatal, so he cannot simply let himself. Zizo, his resurrection ability, can automatically heal him. He knows that going to a hospital will cost him an arm and a leg, and being honest, right now he is broker than a ceramic plate. He is left thinking that perhaps the best option is to take his own life to force the resurrection and heal himself for free. Quite the logic he has, but there is a problem. If he does it in front of the guards, he will cause an unnecessary scandal and attract too much attention. He decides that it is best to find a well-hidden corner to carry out his suicide and cure procedure in peace. He walks through the training base trying to go unnoticed, while carrying his sword on his shoulder. Upon reaching the main plaza, he finds a sea of people. It seems that everyone agreed to be there. He is surprised. What are so many people gathered in one place for? It is definitely not what he expected. Someone points him out from a distance. It's the new kid, the one who just broke all the base records. Jianyang is now famous. Jianyang realizes that all those seniors are there for him. Breaking the record was like throwing a stake into a lion's cage. He curses his luck. With so many people watching, now he really has no way to use his resurrection ability to heal himself. He feels the wounds are worsening, and cold sweat runs down his face. If he heals himself in front of everyone, his secret goes to the trash. He only wants to find a quick exit, to get rid of all these guys, before he faints from blood loss. Out of nowhere, a blinding golden light begins to fall upon him. Jianyang looks up, confused by what is happening. An angelic figure appears behind him. It is an impressive ability that leaves everyone with their mouths open. The students scream excitedly. It is the S-rank support class, the very famous Sacred Angel, one of the rarest abilities in the world. The owner of such power is Yao Kexin. With her shining wings, she looks like a true goddess descended from heaven. People cannot believe that someone from the prestigious Yao family is in that place. Her mere presence changes the entire atmosphere. Jianyang feels his body fill with energy. That healing came in handy just when he needed it most. Yao Kexin looks at him calmly as her power finishes, closing each of Jianyang's wounds. He thanks her sincerely, saying that his wounds are almost completely healed thanks to her. He didn't have to kill himself after all. As a token of gratitude, Jianyang offers to repair her equipment in the future. He knows that support classes always need a good blacksmith at hand. Yao Kexin accepts the deal with a smile, saying that if her things break, she will definitely count on his help. An S-rank ally is a great start, but the peace is short-lived. Jiangbei appears, shoving his way through the crowd, while hurling insults, as if he were being paid to do so. He shouts to the four winds that Jianyang is a fraud, and that no one should believe a word he says, his tongue dripping with venom. He mocks Jianyang's history, reminding everyone that he only possesses 2 rank F classes, the absolute lowest that exist. The students begin to murmur among themselves. It is true, a crafting class possesses no combat power, so how could he possibly have cleared the zone alone? Jiangbei insists it is impossible for a rank F to break a record unless he purchased expensive, illegal equipment, even accusing him of using despicable methods simply because he could never surpass him. During their 3 years of high school, the spite is palpable. Jianyang listens without flinching as Jiangbei continues to point his finger in his face before the entire school. Finally, Jiangbei drops his final bomb. He claims Jianyang isn't poor at all, but is actually scamming the school to keep the subsidies for himself. It is a grave accusation, and the crowd, eager for drama, starts to buy the story, branding Jianyang a bottom-tier human being. Jiangbei's plan is working perfectly. With a smirk, Jianyang asks him sarcastically if he wants proof that he didn't cheat. He knows exactly where this is going, and Jiangbei takes the bait immediately, challenging him to a fight without equipment to prove who is truly the strongest. Yao Kexin worries and begs Jianyang not to fall for the trick, telling him he has nothing to prove to a guy like that. But Jianyang just thanks her for her concern. He has other plans. He isn't going to let this bully get away with his lies in front of everyone. He draws his sword and accepts the challenge with a frightening icy calm. The plaza falls into absolute silence. Jianyang knows he has to end this right here to prevent future headaches. Nobody is going to stand in the way of his path to the top. Jiangbei laughs, boasting that he is a rank A warrior and believing his victory is guaranteed before the fight even begins. He activates his berserker ability, and a violent red energy begins to erupt from his body. He turns serious, showing the true power of his skill. He sacrifices his own vitality to boost his strength, agility, and defense, effectively turning into a living war tank. Jianyang looks at him with indifference and comments that while he looks imposing, he hopes he can keep that rhythm up for a long time. Let the show begin. Jianyang isn't intimidated by the red aura. He knows Zhang Bei is blindly trusting in the superiority of his rank A class. But to Jianyang, that is nothing more than an empty ornament. He prepares for hand-to-hand combat, adjusting his stance. No weapons, no tricks. Just raw strength against the arrogance of a supposed genius. Jianyang stands his ground, determined to teach him a lesson in humility. He is going to prove to Zhang Bei and everyone present that the strong are strong regardless of the class. They happen to draw. Zhang Bei is literally burning with rage, his berserker aura exploding as he prepares for his attack. Yao Kexin watches, unable to believe what she is seeing. To her, it makes no sense, a rank A combat. Class against a simple rank F. Artisan is a guaranteed massacre. Jianyang stands calm, announcing that he has already returned all his equipment before the fight. He stands there barefoot, without a single item on him, challenging a walking tank with pure confidence. Zhang Bei lunges forward, screaming that this is the end for Jianyang, throwing a punch heavy with red energy. But Jianyang moves just enough, dodging with the most relaxed motion imaginable. Zhang Bei is stunned to see he missed. Frustrated, the berserker goes back on the offensive with another brutal strike, trying to connect with sheer brute force. He begins, throwing a flurry of frantic punches, convinced that Jianyang cannot dodge them forever. It is useless. Jianyang slides between the strikes as if he were dancing, leaving nothing but after images behind while Zhang Bei hits nothing but air. With enviable calm, Jianyang admits that the berserker class is powerful, but his gaze implies that it is useless if it never lands. An attack only matters if it connects, Jianyang says as he prepares a counterattack right inside the big man's guard. He leans into his ear to whisper that swinging wildly is a waste of such talent, especially since he has memorized every one of his patterns over the last 3 years. Jianyang connects a dry, sharp punch directly into Zhang Bei's abdomen. The impact is so powerful it can be felt even in the stands. With a cold look, he makes it clear that even if he knows his attacks, Zhang Bei will never be able to see what he has in store. Zhang Bei collapses, gasping for air, unable to understand how a rank F just humiliated him like this. He hits the ground hard, and his followers rush over in desperation to help their big brother, unable to believe the defeat. Jianyang remains standing, victorious, commenting almost to himself that he is still a level above them. In the stands, the chaos is total. No one can process that a rank F artisan just knocked out a rank A berserker. He shakes his hands as if he had just finished a boring chore and walks away from the arena. He knows now that the most important thing is to get good equipment before heading out into the wild zones. He knows that with his modify ability, getting legendary weapons won't be a problem as long as he has a base to edit. He leaves the rookie training base, scratching his head. Now that he has returned the school's gear, he needs to buy something on his own. He checks his pockets and sighs. With the little money he has, even shopping at the street stalls looks complicated. Out of nowhere, someone throws a punch at his back. But Jianyang notices it instantly and smiles without even turning around. He catches the fist with one hand. He knows this trick all too well. He turns to confront the Joker, telling him he is too old to be doing those things. It is Wang Qingfeng, his old rival. The purple-haired boy acknowledges that Jianyang is still the number one in both literature and martial arts. Wang Qingfeng tosses him a soda can to break the ice, and they both start drinking while Wang admits he was watching the fight. He says that if Jianyang had lost, he would have had to step in himself to give the guy a beating. Wang Qingfeng is direct. Jianyang is the only rival he recognizes. For him, trash like Zhang Bei doesn't even deserve his attention. He notes that Jianyang didn't even use his full strength in the duel a moment ago. They remember their first year of high school, when they faced each other for real in a ring, in front of the whole school. Back then, Wang Qingfeng ended up beaten and admitting his defeat, raising his hand in surrender. Since that day, Wang has accepted that Jianyang is superior every year, even though they maintain that fierce competitiveness. Jianyang asks if he only gave him the first-place scholarship because he is a rich kid who isn't hurting for money. Wang laughs and tells him not at all. He was simply afraid of those ruthless eyes Jianyang gets when he fights. Jianyang asks if he will surrender again when they meet in this year's national tournament. Wang Qingfeng's tone shifts, and he ensures that is impossible, promising that this time he will hit him so hard that Jianyang will end up looking for his teeth on the floor. They look at each other with defiant smiles. Wang is determined to fight with everything he has next time. They toast by clashing their soda cans in the middle of the city, sealing their promise of a future duel. Wang pulls out a card and tosses it to him. It is 2,000 credits to buy him the Cyclone Wolf Expedition Guide. He says goodbye, raising his can and reminding him to send the guide soon. Jianyang accepts the deal with a simple, all right, bidding farewell to his friend as he continues on his own path. Inside, Jianyang feels grateful. He promises not to forget this favor and is determined to pay it. back tenfold when the time comes. He checks his balance on his phone and smiles. Now that he has some cash, it is time to go see what hidden gems he can find in the street stalls. He walks relaxed through the city, wondering what kind of treasures await him today. Meanwhile, he enters a narrow, dark alleyway filled with pipes and cables. It is the Black Market Street stall area, a place where the illegal and the cheap go hand in hand. According to the memories of his past life, this is the grimiest and cheapest black market of all. The perfect place for someone on a tight budget. He knows that most of what they sell here is basic trash. But he also knows that for an expert eye like his, finding a hidden gem is not impossible. He stops in front of a used weapon stall, where a guy in sunglasses rests among swords stuck in rocks. The sign is clear, buying and selling secondhand equipment. His eyes analyze one of the weapons, the demonic meteor blade. It has good attack stats, but its durability is on the floor, barely at 72%. The seller won't lower the price, 18,000 credits, and not a penny less, claiming that if it were like new, it would be worth at least 25,000. Jianyang thinks the guy is trying to be too clever. Without flinching, Jianyang points to another much simpler sword and asks for its price. The system shows him the blue steel sword. It is level 10 quality and has decent attack, although its durability is also somewhat touched. Jianyang makes a proposal that leaves the seller cold. If he helps him repair the demonic meteor blade, the guy has to give him the blue steel sword for free. The seller lowers his sunglasses slightly, completely incredulous. He cannot believe a brat like him claims to have the skill necessary to fix something like that. Without waiting for an answer, Jianyang activates his repair ability. The system confirms the start of the process, and a blue light begins to glow in his hand. In his mind appears the image of a legendary general charging on horseback. His target was never the expensive sword, but that simple piece of blue steel that no one values. Jianyang knows something the rest ignore. Thanks to his modify ability, that mediocre sword can be turned into a legendary weapon. The seller tries to bring him down a peg, asking what rank he is and reminding him that repairing the durability of a weapon is an extremely delicate and difficult process. Jianyang replies with total honesty, he is a rank F tinker, a crafting class considered the lowest of all. The guy is surprised. It turns out he also has a crafting class, but he is a rank D blacksmith, which in theory makes him much superior to the kid, holding the damaged sword. The blacksmith warns him that not even he can guarantee a complete restoration of the durability. Without any risk, the blacksmith explains the basics. If durability hits 0, the weapon breaks forever. It's not a child's game. The smith gets technical, claiming that to repair such a piece, one must perceive the weapon's internal structure and reconstruct the magic flowing within. He then issues a challenge. If Jianyang fails the repair, the durability will drop even further, and the boy will have to pay him 18,000 credits in compensation. Jianyang remains impassive to the bet. Among the crowd, Yao Kechin observes the scene with an expression of pure worry. She knows the merchant is right, even rank B experts from her family's guild sweat blood, trying to repair an object's durability. Then watch closely, Jianyang says with total confidence as he takes the sword. He begins to work, and memories of his past life surface. He recalls that back then, he was the one in charge of fixing artifacts for the big shots. In his other life, Jianyang didn't fix scrap, he handled rank A, pieces, and even legendary rank S, artifacts that would make anyone tremble. As his gaze turns a brilliant blue, he reflects on how other rank F tinkers give up quickly, while he dedicated his entire life to perfecting this craft. The energy flows through the weapon's magical circuits, reconnecting every fiber and restoring the flow of power with surgical precision. Jianyang makes it look easy. To him, fixing low-level gear is as simple as taking something out of a backpack. He barely spends a drop of mana. A couple of guys passing by are left with their mouths open, witnessing the talent of a student who seems to know more than any veteran. Yao Kechin is in shock. She thought the boy was just trying to be kind when he offered to help her earlier, but now she sees his ability as real and terrifying. With a casual gesture, Jianyang returns the sword to the merchant. The system confirms the impossible, durability restored to 100%. The merchant takes off his glasses, emotional and regretful for having judged him poorly. He now calls Jianyang brother, and acknowledges that he has an extraordinary talent, fulfilling his part of the deal. The man hands over the blue steel sword with a smile, admitting that the boy earned it many times over. Jianyang takes his new weapon and offers his thanks. He knows the next step is to use his ability to change a single word and create something divine. The system shows the basic stats of the blue steel sword. For the last time before the great transformation, Jianyang activates his power and changes blue steel to King Hang. Instantly, the weapon erupts in light and becomes a pseudo-divine artifact of immense power. The legend comes to life. This is the famous sword that, according to ancient stories, was wielded by the divine general, who pierced enemy lines 7 times, without a scratch. Satisfied with his new acquisition, Jianyang thinks that now he can save those 2,000 credits to pay for university tuition, which is certainly not cheap. The weight of loss still hangs in the air as Jianyang watches his little sister praying in front of their parents' altar. Since they died, she hasn't been able to move on, he thinks with sadness. He knows his sister has a bright future, but for now, he only sees a fragile and introverted girl. He sighs, determined to get enough money to ensure her well-being before leaving for university. While walking down the street, a familiar voice pulls him from his thoughts. "Student Jianyang, can I hire you to help me level up?" It is Yao Kexin, who offers him 50,000 credits to get her to level 10. She is a rank S sacred angel, but she is barely at level 3. Jianyang doesn't hesitate for a second. "Of course I can." The girl sighs in relief, grateful for his help. Inside, Jianyang is euphoric. Money is literally knocking at his door without him having to lift a finger. Kexin approaches the black market stall and points to the demonic meteor blade that Jian just repaired. "Give it to me, I'll take it," she exclaims with decision. The merchant, who now asks for 25,000 credits for the restored weapon, asks if she is sure of the purchase. Jianyang observes the scene from behind. Without blinking, the girl pulls a case from her storage ring to pay. The merchant is stunned. Only the wealthiest families possess storage rings. Completely intimidated by the young woman's wealth, the man hands her the sword with an exaggerated bow, begging her to accept it. Jianyang smiles to himself. Seeing the luxury in Kexin's clothes and accessories, he understands perfectly why she could offer him 50,000 credits without batting an eye. However, poor Kexin can barely handle the weight of the massive blue sword. She wobbles while trying to maintain her balance. Jianyang plans to use the girl's support, abilities to face a boss he could never defeat in his past life and thus level up quickly. Suddenly, Kexin offers the sword to him. Jianyang, take this weapon as a courtesy gift. Please don't refuse it. Jianyang is speechless for a moment. He didn't expect the weapon to be for him. This young lady is truly polite, he thinks, surprised. Then I won't hold back. Thank you very much, says Jianyang, accepting the gift. Kexin smiles, satisfied that he liked it. She watches him walk away and thinks that even though he has a rank F class, his potential seems to have no limits. She decided to help him to build a good relationship starting now. With the new sword on his shoulder, Jianyang tells her, "Without further ado, I will take you to the rookie training base right now." She follows him enthusiastically. They arrive at an imposing, modern building with a giant sign that reads, Rookie Training Base. Once inside, Jian moves like lightning, taking down monsters while Shin levels up at a dizzying speed. She is already level 5. With an acrobatic jump, Jianyang finishes off the last enemy. The system announces that they have broken the time record in both the Charge Rabbit and the Cyclone Wolf bases. In the city, the giant screens show the achievement. Jian and Yao Kexin have beaten the hard mode of the Cyclone Wolf base in record time. People in the streets cannot stop talking about it. They wonder who the girl accompanying the now famous Jianyang is. Some recognize the name Yao Kexin and wonder if she belongs to that Yao family, which causes a great stir among those present. They refer to the Dali Chamber of Commerce, one of the 10 most important in the country, whose leader has the same last name as the girl. Meanwhile, in a desert zone, Kexin is exhausted. "I almost reached level 10. Can we rest a little?" she asks while catching her breath. Jianyang, who is already level 13, encourages her to keep walking. "We will rest while we advance. Your current physical condition can handle it," he says calmly. In front of them appears the image of a terrifying beast. Jianyang is determined to take advantage of Kexin's rank S support to attempt something bold. He is referring to the only rookie training base that has a rank C danger level, a deadly challenge for anyone of their level. They stop in front of a massive entrance guarded by soldiers, the Hellflame Boar training base. The instructor in charge recognizes him immediately. "Jianyang, I know you've broken records, but this is different," he warns seriously. He reminds him that the Hellflame Boar King is infinitely more dangerous than any other creature they have faced. Jianyang replies that there is no glory without risk. Kexin seems nervous, but Jianyang trusts that with her support abilities, they will be able to overcome this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The huge gates begin to open with a metallic rumble. The instructor sighs and wishes them good luck on their mission. "Thank you for the good wishes," Jianyang responds. As they enter the darkness of the enclosure alongside a somewhat restless Kexin. The interior is a misty and silent forest. Kexin looks around confused, noting that there isn't a single monster in sight. Jianyang clears up the mystery. It is because in this base there are no lesser monsters. Here there is only one boss. Kexin's jaw drops from fright. "Only one boss?" she repeats, unable to believe what she just heard. Suddenly the ground begins to tremble violently under their feet. Jianyang stands on guard. "That guy is coming." A gigantic shadow emerges from the fog. It is the Hellflame Boar King. Kexin bursts into tears of fear before such a monster. With a smile of confidence, Jianyang draws his glowing sword. "Only someone like me is worthy of being my opponent," he exclaims bravely. The Hellflame Boar King snorts with fury, its blue eyes shining with a lethal light as it prepares to charge. In front of him stands the Hellflame Boar King, a level 15 beast with a body temperature of 200 degrees. Its blue eyes shine with fury while challenging the young man. Jianyang does not lose his calm and gives clear instructions to Yao Kexin. Get ready, cast sacred light to heal me. The girl, with her angel wings unfurled, nods with determination. To face a powerful monster, thinks Jianyang as he charges forward with his sword drawn, ignoring the suffocating heat emanating from the creature. You must take the initiative. With an agile movement, he propels himself from the ground and jumps into the air, seeking a position of advantage over the Colossus. While descending from the heights, Jianyang plans his strike using gravity and rotation. I'll cut your throat. His figure is silhouetted against the misty forest sky. The Hellflame Boar King lets out a deafening roar upon seeing its enemy approaching from above, marking the beginning of a desperate battle for survival. Jianyang is in the middle of the fight against the Hellflame Boar King. The monster is huge and is wrapped in a rather dangerous aura of blue fire. The guy notices that the beast is smarter than it looks. It jumped just in time to prevent him from cutting its throat. He takes advantage of that small moment in the air to use his special ability on the blue steel sword that Yao Kexin gave him. He knows she won't notice. Without wasting time, he activates his modify ability. Digital particles begin to surround the weapon while time seems to stop. He changes the name of the weapon, and now he has the King Hang sword in his hands. The yellow glow indicates that the change was a total success. The new sword is of A quality and has brutal stats. It not only gives him an attack bonus of 300, but it has a passive that can ignore the enemy's armor. Xianyang smiles. He knows that although his ability cannot skip the laws of physics to create a real divine weapon, this is more than enough for what he needs. Now, with his attack power multiplied by 5 and improved agility, he launches himself against the boss with a slash charged with cyan energy. Now he has the absolute advantage. He moves so fast that the giant boar has no time to react. With a single clean strike, he blows off one of its massive tusks. The impact kicks up a massive cloud of dust, and the Hellflame Boar King lets out a pained roar that shakes the entire facility. Yao Kexin observes the scene from a distance, completely stunned by what she has just witnessed. Jianyang quickly uses his ability to restore the sword to its original name, not wanting Yao Kexin to notice anything strange once the fight ends. The girl is in disbelief, wondering how it is possible for a rank E weapon to cut through the toughest tusk of such a monster. She concludes that it wasn't the weapon's quality, but Jianyang himself. She is convinced that his raw strength is the key to everything. She reflects on the fact that despite having rank F classes, his martial arts skills must far surpass those of normal combat classes. Jianyang glances at her, noticing she is lost in thought, and warns her that this is no time to be distracted in the middle of a battle. He shouts for her to cast Sacred Light immediately, knowing that if he kills the boar alone, she won't receive a single point of experience for the mission. She reacts at once, thanks him for the heads up, and raises her bond to cast the spell on him. With the boost from the spell, Jianyang prepares to finish off the beast. The Boar King's aura intensifies, but Jianyang doesn't back down. He begins to plan his next move, thinking that using Modify as an instant cast could function as a new form of attack. He looks at his other sword, the demonic meteor blade, and wonders what he could transform it into this time. Perhaps something god tier? Ultimately, he decides it's better not to take the risk. If the name he chooses is too powerful, the modification might fail, or even cause him harm. The Boar King doesn't wait any longer and activates its innate ability. Hellflame Charge. Scorching blue fire surrounds its entire body. Jianyang feels the timing is perfect, as he is also eager to end this battle once and for all. The monster lunges at full speed, leaving a trail of blue flames behind it. It is an attack that seems unstoppable. The boy analyzes the name of the enemy technique, already knowing exactly which word he is going to change to neutralize the danger. With a calm smile, he asks Yao Kexin to close her eyes for a moment. She is confused, not understanding why he would ask that now, and feels a bit scared. She asks him what is wrong, but he just insists she do it, telling her to trust him because what is about to happen is not something she would want to see. His expression turns serious, and she assumes he means the scene is about to get very bloody, so she accepts and squeezes her eyes shut. As soon as she can't see, he extends his hand toward the charging monster and activates Modify on the enemy's ability, changing the word charge to buffer. The effect is immediate and completely breaks the dynamic of the boss's attack. The modification is a success. The Boar King breaks abruptly and begins to move with ridiculous slowness, ceasing to be a threat. Taking advantage of the opening, he transforms his weapon back into the King Hang sword. It's over, he says as he prepares the final blow. He unleashes a devastating slash that cuts through the air with a brilliant flash, a decisive, error-free attack. The Hellflame Boar King falls dead instantly. The system announces that the training base boss has been defeated. And thanks to the massive amount of experience, Jianyang rises directly to level 15. His progress is far faster than normal. Yao Kexin also receives her share and gains 3 levels at once, reaching level 12. She opens her eyes and asks timidly if he killed it. Jianyang sheathes his swords calmly, Glad he asked her to close her eyes, so he didn't have to explain how he managed to stop the beast. He starts to think she is the perfect partner. She is obedient, has money, and knows how to heal. He will definitely keep her in mind for future dungeons. He tells her she can open her eyes now, and that the leveling up mission she requested is complete. She opens her eyes slowly, still surprised by how quickly everything was resolved after she blinked. The Boar King lies finally defeated on the ground, and Kexen mutters that Jianyang really did it, marveling at how incredible it is that he finished off such a powerful monster completely alone. Jianyang calmly informs her that the mission is fulfilled and it is time to leave. The girl is totally impressed, seeing a unique talent in him and admiring him for being someone honest, who keeps his contracts. As he is already leaving, she stops him, asking him to wait a moment, and the boy turns around with curiosity. Yao Kexen offers him a small black case as the promised payment, along with an additional token of her personal appreciation. Upon opening it, Jianyang is surprised to see a storage ring. He knows it is an extremely valuable object. These rings are forged with space magic crystals, and allow the storage of all kinds of objects, defying the laws of physics. He hesitates to accept it because he knows that even the smallest one costs hundreds of thousands of credits. But she insists, telling him he needs it more and that helping her gain 2 extra levels deserves the reward. Jianyang thinks better of it. He knows he will soon go to wild zones to farm, and such a ring will be very useful. In the end, he accepts the gift and thanks her, extending his hand to receive the valuable object. As compensation, he promises that in the future he will return the favor unconditionally, provided it does not violate his principles. She accepts delighted, and both leave the dungeon together. The leveling day has ended in total success. In the city, the bulletin board shows the ranking of the new students. Jianyang's name shines in first place at level 15. He knows his advantage won't last long, as the students coming up behind him have top-tier combat classes. Among his future rivals are Stale Yufeng, a rank S sword saint known for being invincible in close combat, San Han, a fighter with incredibly high physical attack power, and Luyan, a rank S Gale assassin specializing in stealth attacks and extreme speed. Jianyang recognizes them all from his past life. He knows that sooner or later he will have to face them for the top spot in the city. Far from being worried, he smiles with confidence. He is eager for the moment to fight them all. Suddenly, a distorted image of a girl appears in his thoughts. But before dwelling on it, he murmurs to himself and decides the first thing he must do is take a trip back to his old home to settle pending matters. He remembers with bitterness how in his past life he was separated from his family, leaving his little sister to grow up in total loneliness. He says goodbye to Yao Kexen, who asks him to enter a dungeon together again as soon as they have the chance. He walks through the slums, remembering that in his other life, he was never able to return to this place after being taken by the adults. He thinks of his sister, Yan Yao. He knows that in the future she will awaken a very powerful, rank A combat class. He opens the door to their humble apartment and finds her there. The tension in the atmosphere is evident. She is Jian Yao, his 15-year-old sister, a somewhat withdrawn girl who greets him by letting him know that dinner is served. They sit down to eat at a small table. She has been this quiet since their parents died in a demon nest. He remembers the happy days from 3 years ago, when their parents were still alive and she smiled all the time. The loss of their parents was too hard a blow for her, changing her character completely and making her melancholic. While they eat, Jian Yao drops an unexpected bombshell. She plans to drop out of school immediately. Jianyang is stunned and shouts, asking the reason for such a sudden decision. He reminds her that her grades are excellent, and that it makes no sense to quit, right? Before the high school entrance exam, she confesses that she saw his name in the first place of the city ranking, and that she is very proud of him. She tells him he has always been the hardest worker, and she is sure he will become a powerful, awakened who will save the world. With her head down, she admits she feels she won't amount to anything important. Even with good grades, she believes it is best to start working, now to help with household expenses, so he can focus on his career. The boy stares at her fixedly. He knows that isn't the real reason, and demands she tell him what she is really thinking. Suddenly, they hear the sound of the door opening again, interrupting the tense conversation. A man enters the apartment greeting the girl, while the siblings are surprised by the visit. The man enters scratching the back of his neck, feeling somewhat intrusive for interrupting the private conversation. He laments to himself, his own loan company is in a critical situation. Otherwise, he wouldn't have come to collect so soon. Jianyang recognizes him immediately. It is Uncle Kanan, the head of a microloan company from which they have been borrowing money to survive. Seeing his expression, the boy understands that the man already went there before and suspects that is the real reason for his sister's distress. Jian Yao avoids her brother's gaze. He understands that she saw his ranking, but knows they have no income to pay the accumulated debts. Jianyang realizes the sacrifice his sister is willing to make, abandoning her studies to work so he can go to university. In a firm voice, the young man asks Uncle Kanan, directly how much the total debt they have incurred in these last 2 years amounts to. The man sighs and explains that without counting interest, the total sum is about 43,000 credits. To everyone's surprise, Jian takes out a card and hands it to him, telling him that there are 50,000 credits to settle the debt and interest. Zhen Yao is left speechless, unable to imagine where her brother got such an amount of money overnight. He notices his sister's confusion and fear and wants to explain it all, but prefers to wait until the lender leaves the apartment. Uncle Kanan, catching the hint and visibly relieved to have been paid, nods and prepares to leave. He says goodbye kindly to the two young people and tells them not to hesitate to contact him if they need his help again in the future. Once the door closes, the girl's concern explodes. She fears that her brother has Jianyang gently pats her head to calm her down, assuring her that he earned every credit legally through his own skills. With a confident smile, he explains that he is on track to become the top student of his class, and the prize for achieving that is 300,000 credits. He urges her to stop worrying about money and insists that she does not need to sacrifice her future to support him. Xianyo bursts into tears, realizing that her older brother has perfectly understood all her fears and the sacrifice she was planning to make. He hands her the rest of the funds, insisting that she shouldn't hold back, as from now on they will have more than enough resources to live well. He encourages her to study and train hard with a radiant smile, showing her that the future is bright for both of them, and jokingly promises that soon everyone will know her as the sister of the #1 student, so she must also strive to become stronger. She can only nod through her sobs, deeply moved by his unconditional support and the new strength her brother demonstrates. Zhenyo throws herself into his arms, promising with determination that she will never do anything to shame the Jian family name. As he hugs her, Jianyang plans his next move. He needs a way to earn more money while leveling up simultaneously. His mind turns toward the demon dens of Nanrong City, searching for the perfect location for his next intensive training session. He chooses the poisonous Dragon Valley, a dangerous but opportunistic place for someone with his knowledge, as it features a high density of monsters perfect for rapid leveling. Legends say that deep within the valley, strange magical beasts shaped like dragons dwell, and he believes that if he can get his hands on a dragon egg, his universal grafting ability will finally show its true destructive potential. Additionally, he hopes to find rare magic crystals that he can sell for a small fortune. Completely determined, he sets his goal to leave at the first light of dawn. Shortly after, the bus arrives at the Nanrong Demon Den station, and passengers are asked to descend carefully. Jianyang steps off the bus and observes a crowd of adventurers and students preparing to enter the dangerous zone. Before him stands the imposing and threatening citadel that serves as the gateway to the world of demon dens, a bastion of humanity against the invasion, separated from the actual city by a heavily guarded passage. The entire area is under the strict supervision of two powerful level 70 venerables whom Jianyang remembers, having served in his past life. As he enters the compound, he watches as most people put on their combat gear, mentally preparing for the fight. He touches the storage ring Yao Kexin gave him, once again grateful for the immense generosity that has made things so much easier for him. He reaches the east gate of the complex, the closest exit point for heading directly toward the poisonous Dragon Valley, and consults a detailed map showing the various explored areas and their danger levels. He confirms that the valley is the most suitable location for his current level, with creatures ranging mainly from level 13 to 18. Upon reaching the checkpoint, he presents his student identification, which officially classifies him under the modest farmer or tinker class. The senior instructor looks at the ID and becomes agitated, unable to understand how a double rank F plans to enter the poisonous Dragon Valley alone, warning him that people die for real out there. Jianyang retrieves his card without flinching at the warning, thanking him for the advice but making it clear that he has no plans to die today. The instructor watches him walk away with a bead of sweat on his forehead. He doesn't want to let the boy walk straight into a slaughterhouse because, to him, every life is valuable regardless of rank. Without thinking, the instructor reaches out his arm to grab him and stop him from advancing, but he ends up grasping only air. Jianyang moves so fast that the instructor strikes nothing but an afterimage. The instructor is in total shock, unable to believe that a brat could dodge him so effortlessly, especially since he is a level 30 awakened. On the outskirts, a soldier stops, his captain dead in his tracks, and warns him that the boy walking away isn't just some nobody, it's Jianyang. The captain can't believe it, learning that Jianyang is an exceptional talent, who took first place in everything, and even broke the training base records. They stare at his retreating figure, stunned that a rank F could have that level of combat prowess, something not even S-classes had achieved before. Jianyang reaches the entrance of the poisonous Dragon Valley, a place that looks like a radioactive nightmare due to the thick green fog. The situation is dire because the air is toxic, so he pulls out one of the mandatory antidote pills to avoid kicking the bucket. He swallows it in one go. Each pill costs $50 and only lasts 3 hours, and since he is short on cash, He has no time to lose. Not a minute passes before he is swarmed by level 13 green-winged bats eager to bite. But Jianyang doesn't flinch. He cuts them down as if they were made of paper, and his experience starts climbing immediately. He looks at the corpses and smiles. Those creatures only gave him a tiny nudge in his progress, but it's a start. To avoid staying there all day, he decides to turbocharge the process and activates his Modify ability. He walks calmly while his sword begins to glow with a rather suspicious purple energy. Poof! He converts his cheap steel sword into the King Hang sword. Now the real hunt begins. He dives into the middle of the horde and starts delivering slashes left and right. The bats don't even stand a chance. The massacre is swift, and he jumps directly to level 16. His efficiency is otherworldly. He keeps clearing the area of vultures and poisonous toads without breaking a sweat until he hits level 18. He takes a breather to hydrate. He is level 18, but he still has a long way to go to reach his goal. He complains about his bad luck because, despite having killed half the jungle, he hasn't found a single miserable magic crystal. Out of nowhere, a voice asks him if he was the one who took down all those beasts. Jianyang is immediately on alert. Two guys emerge from the fog. Jin notices they aren't rookies by the way they move. It turns out the leader is Lu Yuan, an S-class prodigy from the other academy, a big fish in every sense. One of his companions, Yutao, tries to act tough by asking him if he is deaf. Jianyang doesn't flinch and calls him a nameless nobody. He stands up with all the tranquility in the world and asks rhetorically if it isn't obvious that he killed them. Yutao gets heated quickly and rolls up his sleeves, offended that a brat doesn't respect Lu Yuan's status. Lu Yuan stops his lapdog and surprisingly offers Jianyang a spot on his team because he sees potential in him. Jianyang tells them to get lost immediately. He knows they only want him to do the dirty work, so they can steal his experience for free. Yutao can't believe the kid's arrogance, and is dying to teach him a lesson right there. Lu Yuan remains thoughtful, telling his partner that if the kid made it this far alone, he truly has talent. Even so, Yutao remains resentful and swears that the next time he crosses paths with him, he's gonna knock his teeth out. An hour passes and Jianyang ventures deeper into the valley. He only has one antidote pill left, so he needs to hurry. He keeps looking for some rare material that might be worth it. But so far luck is not on his side. There's only fog and silence. He remembers the rumors about powerful dragons in this valley, but so far he hasn't seen a shadow of them. Suddenly, he feels something moving at full speed from the side. It's a full-blown ambush. A giant sticky tongue shoots out toward him, but Jianyang reacts in time and blocks it with his sword. He tries to cut it, but the tongue is tougher than it looks. Things are getting interesting, and he is surprised to see that his upgraded sword couldn't even make a scratch. The enemy's defense is absurd. A huge silhouette begins to emerge from the darkness, and the ground rumbles with each of its movements. There it is, the Miasma Demon Toad. King, a level 20 zone boss that looks absolutely terrifying. Far from being scared, Jianyang smiles. He finally found something that will drop the magic crystal he desperately needs. The toad doesn't waste time and launches its constricting tongue ability to trap him. Several tongues fly toward him, but Jianyang weaves between them as if he were dancing, analyzing the patterns. He has already taken its measure. With a determined look, Jianyang prepares to break the boss's technique with his Modify ability, aiming to change it to Controlled Break so the beast trips over itself. Jianyang lunges into the attack with everything he has. "Time for you to die, you disgusting toad." He screams while jumping, but the blow bounces off. The toad's skin is like a stone wall, and Jianyang is stunned to see he didn't leave a single scratch. The Toad King doesn't stay still and activates Frost Skin, increasing his defense to absurd levels. He is armored. The system throws an error. He cannot modify the boss because its level is too high. Jianyang is frustrated. His plan went wrong. He realizes that against stronger enemies, his Modify ability is very unreliable and short-lived. The toad returns to the attack with its sticky tongue, forcing Jianyang to retreat in a hurry. Jianyang stares at the monster, knowing that to win here, he has to bet it all. He has to take a risky gamble, he thinks with a tense smile. He uses Modify on his own weapon, the demonic meteor blade, to force an evolution. The sword begins to vibrate and glow with a super aggressive red energy that looks like it's going to explode. The transformation is complete, and now he holds the Demon King's blade. The power radiating from that thing is insane, and Jianyang finds himself enveloped in a terrifying aura of red flames. The weapon has a life of its own. A huge, sinister eye opens on the sword's hilt, observing everything. Jianyang realizes the sword is dangerous, but he has to finish off the toad quickly before things get even worse. He unleashes a devastating slash with the new sword, releasing a wave of red energy that cuts through the air. Boom. The blow splits the demon, Toad King in half as if it were butter. The boss is finished. After the attack, Jianyang falls to his knees. A single blow with that sword and he is out of stamina. He gasps, searching for air fills his lungs, and he realizes that the Demon King's blade is a double-edged weapon far too heavy for him to handle. Suddenly, he is seized by terror as crimson marks begin to climb up his arm. The sword is consuming him. He desperately tries to activate his modify ability to halt the corruption, but he is so drained that he can barely concentrate. He collapses to the ground, utterly exhausted. As the red veins crawl relentlessly toward his shoulder, a malevolent voice emanates from the weapon, mocking him for daring to borrow a king's power. A giant, sinister eye appears in his mind, and the sword's consciousness warns him that he will pay the price with his own life. Jianyang grits his teeth, fighting to remain conscious while the crimson aura envelops him completely. Despite the agony, he manages to activate one final resource. I already expected this, he murmurs with great effort. He reveals that this isn't the first time he has dealt with this specific blade. He knows all its tricks from his previous life. He strikes directly at the eye of the sword. The seed of its evil, consciousness, to subdue it. An explosion of red energy bursts from the weapon as Jianyang battles to dominate it with sheer willpower. He screams as the sword's power resists, creating a whirlwind of red light around him. The demon king's consciousness shrieks as its presence fades, defeated. Jianyang lets out a sigh of relief. Finally, the red mark on his arm stops advancing. By attacking the weapon's consciousness directly, he has managed to halt the erosion just in time. He was saved by a miracle. He knows that once he recovers his strength, he must rename the sword to end this threat for good. He sits there resting, remembering that in his past life he faced a similar, though much more lethal, situation against the 9th Demon King. Back then, it took a level 80 general to stop it, but thanks to that terrifying ordeal, he now knows exactly how to handle such anomalies without being consumed. He stares at the sword, wondering if these demon kings originate from some other more horrific world. Jianyang stands up, still slightly weak but with the situation under control. It is time to execute Modify to change the sword's name into a rotten jaw blade, stripping away the danger. He approaches the remains of the toad. "Don't disappoint me, boss," he mutters while searching for the loot. He picks up a brilliant purple crystal floating in the shadows, mission accomplished. The crystal is his. He has stumbled upon a magic crystal from a level 20 boss. Easy money for his bag. In addition to the Toad King, he collects the remains of all the monsters he slaughtered, knowing they are worth a fortune. He suspects that selling them on the black market will yield much higher profits than the official market. But the most important thing is that he has just leveled up after taking down the boss. He has reached level 20. Gaining 2 levels in one go is absolutely insane for anyone. He begins to scheme on how to exploit the system to reach level 100 by finding a glitch, but he realizes the risk is too high. If the system fails, the entire city of Nanrong could reset with him. He decides it's better not to gamble so recklessly. It turns out that every 10 levels grant him a new innate ability, and since he is now level 20, he unlocks Dismantle to obtain materials and Tastionery, which seems like a useless skill at first glance. However, with a single word change, he turns that trash into Damage Immunity. Immunity to damage. That is truly a god-tier ability. It will be a lifesaver in critical moments. He decides it is time to return, but suddenly he notices something strange in the valley's air. Someone is watching him from the treetops. His peace is over. He recognizes the intruder. It is one of Lu Yun's subordinates. The assassin appears on the scene, knife in hand, ready to ambush him from behind. It is Liu Tao, a rank B assassin who thinks highly of himself for being level 17, and he comes straight to teach Jianyang a lesson. Liu Tao activates his extreme speed ability to lunge at what he considers rank F trash. The assassin is convinced he has Jianyang cornered, mocking his inferior class, but to Jianyang, the attack is predictable and incredibly boring. He blocks it without breaking a sweat. And with a single move, Jianyang counterattacks, taking the assassin out of the fight. Liu Tao ends up on the ground, spitting blood, unable to understand how he was defeated so quickly. He is in shock, failing to grasp why Jianyang's speed is superior to his own. And to make matters worse, he notices Jianyang is wearing an incredibly expensive storage ring. It is a total humiliation for Liu Tao. Jianyang lectures him on why class isn't everything. Training and attributes are what dictate the outcome. Liu Tao realizes he has no chance and is completely finished. But suddenly, Jianyang notices another presence, far more dangerous, lurking in the shadows. He narrowly dodges a surprise attack coming straight for him. Things just got serious. A new rival appears, a high-level assassin who has come to test Jianyang's strength. Both clash their weapons in a frantic duel that sends sparks flying everywhere. The newcomer admits that Jianyang's sword is very good. "Not bad," he says. Jianyang returns the compliment, analyzing every movement of this new, powerful opponent. The assassin steps back slightly, admitting that Jianyang is an opponent worthy of his attention. Lu Yuan wants to see what the #1 rookie in the rankings is truly capable of. Jianyang laughs. He sees his rival still isn't fully convinced of his true strength, so he throws out a challenge. "Let's make a bet. Whoever loses must hand over their weapon to the other." Deal. Lu Yuan, the rank S assassin, activates his Gale aura. Jianyang prepares for combat. His personal treasure is about to become a rank S weapon. Lu Yuan shifted into a defensive stance. His eyes locked firmly on Jianyang as countless thoughts raced through his mind. My class was destined to be faster than anyone else. Speed is my everything. The moment that thought crossed his mind, he exploded forward like a bolt of lightning and charged straight at Jianyang. Without the slightest hesitation, Jianyang raised his arms and weapons to defend himself, struggling to keep up with the barrage of attacks, coming at him from every angle even while blocking. He could not help but feel shocked. It's truly outrageously fast as expected of an S-rank combat class. Not far away, Liu Tao was lying on the ground while witnessing the entire battle unfold before his eyes. Excitement filled his face as he shouted loudly, "So cool, just take him out like this, brother." Seeing Jianyang apparently struggling to defend against his speed, Lu Yuan became even more confident. A victorious smile slowly appeared on his face as he thought to himself, "Too slow. He is simply not my opponent. An F-rank class is ultimately just F-rank." In Lu Yuan's eyes, the outcome of the battle had already been decided. Jianyang seemed incapable of matching his speed, and every second that passed only strengthened his belief that victory was within his grasp. Then, in a sudden flash of movement, Lu Yuan disappeared from Jianyang's sight and instantly reappeared behind him, gathering all of his strength into a single devastating strike. He aimed directly at Jianyang's blind spot. A confident grin spread across his face as he swung his attack forward. This strike will end everything. At that very moment, blood splashed into the air. For a brief second, everyone believed the battle was over. But in the next instant, an unbelievable scene unfolded. Without even turning around to look behind him, Jianyang had casually reached out with one hand and stopped Lu Yuan's attack dead in its tracks. The strike that was supposed to decide the battle had been completely halted. Silence seemed to fall over the battlefield. Lu Yuan's eyes widened in disbelief as his body froze where he stood. He could not understand what had just happened. His greatest weapon was his speed, the very thing that allowed him to dominate his opponents and overwhelm them, and that realization sent a chill through his entire body. Jianyang looked directly at Lu Yuan, his expression calm and unwavering despite the intensity of the battle. There was not a trace of panic in his eyes as he spoke in a steady voice. "The victor has been decided." Hearing those words and witnessing Jianyang effortlessly stop his attack, Lu Yuan finally understood something he had failed to realize from the very beginning. His eyes narrowed as countless thoughts rushed through his mind. From the very beginning, he never intended to compete in speed with me. So this is the strength of the first place on the Nanrong City freshman level rankings. Finally, things are starting to get a little interesting. But if you can trade injury for injury, I can also sever my tail to survive. The shock he had felt only moments ago gradually transformed into excitement. Instead of fear, a fierce fighting spirit began burning within him. He had finally encountered an opponent worthy of his full strength, and that realization made his blood boil with anticipation. Without giving him any time to recover, Jianyang immediately moved to finish the battle. He swung his weapon with tremendous force, aiming to end the fight in a single decisive strike. The attack cut through the air with frightening speed and power. However, Lu Yuan's reactions were just as extraordinary. At the critical moment, he instantly leaped backward and narrowly avoided the attack. His body flew through the air before landing at a safe distance from Jianyang. Although he had escaped the strike, there was a price to pay. Jianyang lowered his gaze and noticed that something had remained in his hand. It was Lu Yuan's dagger. In order to escape the attack, Lu Yuan had abandoned his weapon without hesitation, choosing survival over possession. It was a decision that required incredible decisiveness and battlefield awareness. Looking at the dagger in his hand, Jianyang could not help but praise him. "Good kid. You actually abandoned your weapon. Your combat experience is quite impressive. However, now that you have no weapon, how are you going to continue fighting me?" His voice was calm, but there was genuine acknowledgement in his words. Very few people could make such a quick decision under pressure. At that moment, Lu Yuan was already standing high on the branch of a nearby tree as he looked down at Jianyang with a confident smile on his face. Far from looking worried, he appeared completely relaxed. Then he answered with a grin, "I really like this type of short sword, so I usually keep 3 of them prepared in my storage ring." Jianyang looked at Lu Yuan and could not help but think to himself, "I almost forgot. He is the eldest young master of the prestigious Lu family of Nanrong City. Although this B-rank weapon is expensive, to him it is nothing more than a drop in the ocean. However, defeating such a favored son of heaven is what makes this feel even more satisfying." At that moment, Lu Yuan raised his newly drawn short sword and activated one of his abilities. A powerful aura immediately surged from his body as his expression became more serious than ever before. "You are the first opponent who is going to witness this. I originally thought it would be that sword saint." As soon as those words left his mouth, the battlefield was engulfed by violent winds. The name of the skill was revealed. Gale Fierce Slash. With a loud roar, Lu Yuan swung his blade at astonishing speed. Instantly, countless wind-infused slashes burst forward like a raging storm. Sharp blade auras tore through the air one after another, covering a massive area and rushing toward Jianyang from every direction. Faced with the overwhelming assault, Jianyang immediately began moving at high speed, weaving through the incoming attacks while searching for openings. As he narrowly dodged one slash after another, he analyzed the situation in his mind. This is the power of a combat class. Every innate skill can provide a massive boost in combat. Another barrage of blade auras shot toward him, forcing him to change direction repeatedly. Not to mention this kid is an S-rank combat class. Even while avoiding the attacks, Jianyang could not deny the strength his opponent was displaying. He is ridiculously strong. However, while continuously observing Lu Yuan's attacks, Jianyang gradually noticed a weakness. But his blade strikes are clearly not as fast as he is in close quarters combat. Slashing out this kind of wind-type blade aura must take a huge toll on his stamina. Hiding my figure and seeking a one-hit kill is my chance at victory. His eyes narrowed as he reached a decision. After all, I can't possibly use my true innate skill. The next moment, Jianyang completely disappeared from sight. Lu Yuan continued his assault for a few moments before, finally realizing that his target was nowhere to be seen. He stopped and carefully scanned the surroundings. The battlefield had suddenly become silent. Standing amidst the chaos he had created, Lu Yuan slowly spoke. He hit himself. A wise decision. A faint smile appeared on his face. However, moments later, that smile turned into a confident grin. But what will you do once you have nowhere left to hide? The instant he finished speaking, he unleashed another frenzy of attacks. Wave after wave of gale-fierce slash erupted from his sword. The surrounding forest was devastated by the relentless assault. Massive trees were sliced apart one after another, crashing to the ground with thunderous noises. Finally, after reducing the surrounding area to ruins, Lu Yuan descended from above and landed on the ground. He immediately looked around, expecting to find Jianyang exposed among the wreckage. But what he saw made his eyes widen. The battlefield was empty. There was no trace of Jianyang anywhere. A shocked expression appeared on his face as he muttered, "That guy?" He disappeared. But at that very moment, Lu Yuan suddenly sensed something behind him. His instincts immediately screamed a warning. Without hesitation, he spun around and launched an attack toward the presence he had detected. His blade flashed through the air with incredible speed, cutting straight toward his target. However, when the attack landed, Lu Yuan's eyes widened. There was no one there. The strike had only shattered a broken piece of a tree. Even so, he quickly realized what had happened and shouted, "The shadow is cast down. I see you." Yet the person he thought he had found was nothing more than a decoy. At that moment, a figure slowly emerged from the mist in front of him. Jianyang stepped forward calmly, his sword in hand and his gaze unwavering. Then he spoke. "A feint to the east, strike to the west, I win." Hearing those words, Lu Yuan's expression became increasingly complicated. In his mind, countless thoughts surged forth. An F-rank class actually pushed me to this extent, using the terrain here and even the plants. He looked at Jianyang with a mixture of disbelief and admiration. If he were an A-rank class, I really don't know how strong he would be. But what a pity. No matter how strong he is merely an F-rank class, while I am a true S-rank combat class. How could it be possible to be defeated by you just like this? Refusing to accept defeat, Lu Yuan activated another ability. A brilliant light erupted around him as a powerful barrier instantly formed. Before his body, the shield stood firmly between him and Jianyang, blocking the incoming attack path. Seeing this, Jianyang's eyes narrowed. This kid has also broken through level 20, and he has another innate skill. However, his confidence remained unchanged. But my Qingang sword is not to be trifled with either. The pressure emitted from Jianyang's sword rapidly increased. The air itself seemed to tremble under its power. Lu Yuan's barrier held for a moment, but soon cracks began spreading across its surface. Even Jianyang's sword started vibrating from the tremendous force being exerted. Looking directly at the shield before him, Jianyang said, "Even if you have a shield, you can't withstand such a powerful attack." In the next instant, he unleashed a full-force strike. Boom! The barrier shattered completely. Fragments of energy exploded in every direction as the shield was destroyed. The remaining force of the attack slammed directly into Lu Yuan, sending him flying a tremendous distance away. His body crashed through the battlefield, before finally coming to a stop far in the distance. After watching him disappear into the distance, Jianyang stood silently and looked ahead. Then he muttered to himself, "Should I pursue further?" For a brief moment, he considered finishing the fight. However, he quickly shook his head. But it obviously hasn't reached the point of a life-and-death struggle. Moreover, Lu Yuan isn't a bad person. In my past life, he also led the Lu family to resist the monster invasion. Meanwhile, far away from the battlefield, Lu Yuan lay on the ground. His condition was miserable. His clothes were torn, his body ached from head to toe, and his stamina was nearly depleted. Yet despite his condition, his fighting spirit had not completely vanished. As he struggled to stand, he thought, "I haven't lost yet. Wait until he gets closer and I'll give him a wind blade point blank. Even if my stamina is exhausted, I must severely wound him. However, as those thoughts crossed his mind, another realization followed. But, as someone with an S-rank class, to actually be pushed into such a desperate situation by an F-rank like him, he clenched his fists. So an F-rank class can also grow to be this strong? Despite his shock, he still held faith in his own future. But no matter what, my potential as an S-rank is definitely higher than his. Soon afterward, he saw Jianyang approaching from the distance. Believing that the battle was about to continue, Lu Yuan secretly prepared one of his daggers for a final surprise attack. His eyes remained fixed on Jianyang. But then something completely unexpected happened. Jianyang stopped in front of him and extended his hand. There was no hostility in his expression. Instead, there was only respect. Then he said, "It seems we fought to a draw. You are really strong." Lu Yuan was completely stunned. His mind went blank. Nothing about the situation made sense to him. Confused, he asked, "What do you mean by this?" Jianyang smiled slightly. "I mean that you are an opponent worthy of my attention. We'll call this match a tie." For a moment, Lu Yuan simply stared at him. Then he noticed something in Jianyang's eyes. There was no arrogance, no contempt, no sense of superiority, only genuine acknowledgement. Lu Yuan quietly thought to himself, "This is a look of acknowledgement. He doesn't look down on me." His expression gradually softened. "I am strong, but he is also strong." At that moment, he understood something important. "I understand now. There is always a higher mountain, and there is always someone stronger." The pride he had always carried began transforming into maturity. Looking at Jianyang, he sincerely said, "Thank you for teaching me this truth." After that, the two young men reached out and shook hands. The fierce battle that had shaken the forest ended with mutual respect. Lu Yuan looked directly at Jianyang and declared, "I admit you are a true powerhouse, a powerhouse worthy of being seen as my opponent. But next time, I will definitely defeat you fair and square at the Freshman Top 100 tournament." Jianyang smiled confidently before replying, "Then you'll have to work much harder to get stronger, otherwise..." His eyes sharpened slightly. "You will lose the qualification to be my opponent." Liu Tao dragged Lu Yuan away while shouting at Jianyang, "You little punk, just you wait. How dare you leave my Yuan bro that banged up?" Lu Yuan immediately turned toward him and said, "Watch your mouth from now on. You show him the same respect you show me." Hearing that, Liu Tao could only nod his head. Lu Yuan then looked back at Jianyang with a smile and said, "Next time I'm going all out and beating him for sure." Jianyang watched him leave and smiled faintly. In his mind, he thought, if you really went all out, the moment you shouted the name of your first skill, you'd already have lost. After all, Gale Rending Slash has so many ways I can tweak it. It's a shame though. After such a big fight, I didn't get any real gains. Since it was a draw, I even gave that dagger back. Kind of feels like working for nothing. As Jianyang scratched the back of his head, he suddenly felt a huge surge of energy coming from nearby. His attention was instantly drawn toward it, and he narrowed his eyes. "What's that?" he muttered. A moment later, he seemed to realize something. Must have been back then. His slash made something invisible show itself. Looks like some kind of special poison mist. Let's go take a look. Maybe I'll even run into another boss-tier monster. Without wasting any time, Jianyang activated his modification skill and converted his damage. Immunity into poison immunity. The effect of the skill immediately appeared before him. For 20 minutes, grants immunity to toxins at D rank and below. Seeing this, Jianyang nodded with satisfaction and said, "With this skill, I can save my antidote pills for now." So what exactly is hiding inside that strange poisonous fog? Following the source of the energy, Jianyang soon arrived at a large lake. Thick, poisonous. Mist floated above the surface of the water and slowly spread outward in every direction. After observing it for a moment, he said, "It's spreading out from the center of the lake. Looks like this whole lake is toxic. Could there be a legendary poison dragon living in here? Let's find out." The moment those words left his mouth, Jianyang jumped straight into the lake and began swimming deeper toward the center. As he moved through the water, he kept searching for the source of the poisonous aura. However, something felt strange. Everywhere he looked, there were only weak monsters swimming around. None of them seemed powerful enough to create such an overwhelming poisonous presence. This made him even more curious. Why are there only weak small fry around, he wondered. Just as he was thinking about it, a massive shadow suddenly appeared in front of him. The surrounding water trembled as a huge monster emerged from the depths. Its body was covered in thick ice-like armor, and its enormous jaws looked powerful enough to tear apart almost anything in its path. At that moment, information about the creature appeared before Jianyang. Ice-armored crocodile. Level 18. The moment he saw it, Jianyang's eyes lit up. So there is a big guy in the water. The giant crocodile fixed its gaze on him and slowly opened its terrifying mouth. It was obvious that the monster saw him as prey and intended to swallow him whole. But instead of panicking, Jianyang remained completely calm. A confident smile appeared on his face as he stared directly at the beast and said, "You want to eat me? Not happening that easily." Without wasting a second, Jianyang threw his sword straight toward the ice-armored crocodile. The blade cut through the water with incredible speed and struck the monster with deadly precision. As he launched the attack, he thought to himself, "I'll begrudgingly accept your materials." The powerful strike proved to be the finishing blow, and the massive creature quickly lost its life. Watching the enormous body sink motionlessly, Jianyang examined it for a moment before shaking his head. "This guy's so huge, there's no way it'll fit in my storage ring, but I can try out my new dismantle skill." Curious to see how effective the skill was, he immediately activated it. Information about the ability appeared before him. Dismantle. Can dismantle items of level 10 or below to obtain materials. 10% chance to trigger reward crit. After activating the skill, Jianyang quickly got to work. The process was surprisingly smooth, and it did not take long before the giant monster had been properly dismantled into useful materials. Looking through the results, one particular item caught his attention. He picked it up and inspected it carefully before nodding with satisfaction. "Now this hide is pretty good. I'll keep it." After storing the valuable material away, Jianyang prepared to continue his investigation. The mysterious energy he had sensed earlier was becoming stronger and stronger with every passing moment, and only then did he realize how close he had already come to its source. "I didn't even notice. I'd gotten this close to where the strange poison mist is coming from. Let's see what's actually over there." With his curiosity growing, Jianyang began moving forward at a much faster pace. The deeper he traveled, the stronger the poisonous aura became. At the same time, countless thoughts continued running through his mind. The terrain all around has been warped by the toxins. Don't tell me my luck is really that good. The environment around him looked increasingly unnatural. The poisonous energy had altered everything in the area, creating a landscape unlike anything he had seen before. The closer he got, the more convinced he became that something extraordinary was hiding ahead. Eventually, he spotted a massive rock and quickly moved behind it to conceal himself. Carefully peeking from cover, he looked toward the center of the toxic region. At that moment, information provided by the system appeared before his eyes. Poison Dragon, level 43, female, growth phase. The moment he saw those words, Jianyang's heart skipped a beat. His eyes widened slightly as he stared at the creature in the distance. It really is a poison dragon, even for someone who had encountered many powerful monsters. The sight before him was shocking. He continued observing the dragon while countless thoughts filled his mind. Still in its growth phase and already laying eggs, with its level up to 43, as expected of a legendary high-tier monster, the enormous dragon radiated an overwhelming presence, and the poisonous aura spreading throughout. The entire lake clearly originated from it. Hidden behind the giant rock, Jianyang remained completely still as he continued watching the legendary creature from afar, knowing that he had just stumbled upon something far more valuable and dangerous than he had ever expected. Hidden behind the massive rock, Jianyang continued staring at the poison dragon while countless calculations ran through his mind. The more he observed the legendary creature, the more valuable it seemed in his eyes. Once it matures, it'll probably hit at least level 70. And with my universal grafting skill, its upper limit can be pushed even higher. When I find a chance to steal those dragon eggs, I can count that as avenging all the humans who died here. The thought of obtaining those eggs made his heart race with anticipation. However, just as he was planning his next move, a strange sound suddenly echoed through the area. Jianyang immediately looked upward, his expression turning serious. A moment later, he sensed another overwhelming presence approaching. His eyes widened as the realization hit him. Could it be? Of course. There's a male, too. The discovery instantly changed the situation. One poison dragon was already terrifying enough, but the existence of a second one made this place far more dangerous than he had expected. Jianyang quickly assessed the risk and came to a conclusion. This place isn't safe. I can't beat them yet. Time to come back when I'm stronger. At least my goal is clearer than ever. Get stronger. Claim those dragon eggs. Not long afterward, Jianyang had already left the lake and returned to dry land. Even as he walked away, his mind remained focused on the future. When that happens, who else but me could be Nanyang City's top scorer? Time to go. I'll sell these materials at the black, market first and cash out. With his plans decided, he immediately set off toward his next destination. Soon the scene shifted to the underground black market of Nanyang City. As he made his way through the area, Jianyang explained the place from his own perspective. This is the underground black market of Nanyang City. Rumor has it a level 60 Grandmaster sits in charge here. They say the Grandmaster has an extraordinary background, so as long as nothing huge happens here, The authorities turn a blind eye. That makes a lot of trades easier and hides plenty of sins as, well, the underground market was filled with all kinds of people, from hunters and merchants to individuals, involved in deals that would never be allowed in public. Despite its dangerous reputation, it was also one of the most convenient places to buy and sell rare materials. Jin Young eventually stopped in front of a particular shop and continued. And this place is, in my past life memories, the most reliable black market shop around. Inside the shop, a female owner was already negotiating with two men. One of them looked frustrated as he pleaded, "Boss, can't you bump the price a little? It wasn't easy for us brothers to get this haul." The woman remained completely calm and replied, "I'm already paying the highest price on this entire street. If you don't want to sell, feel free to walk." Just then, her attention shifted toward the entrance where Jian Yang had appeared. Looking him up and down, she raised an eyebrow and said, "A high school kid? You got something to sell too?" Before Jian Yang could answer, one of the two men burst out laughing. "Look at him. He doesn't even own a proper outfit. What goods could he possibly have?" The man then walked over and waved him away dismissively. "Kid, I'm telling you, get lost. Stop wasting the boss's time." Faced with their mockery, Jian Yang showed no sign of anger. Instead, he casually flexed his storage ring and said, "I really don't have anything special." The moment they noticed the ring, both men froze. Their expressions instantly changed from ridicule to shock. Storage ring? How does he have something that expensive? Before they could recover from their surprise, Jian Yang calmly began taking items out one after another. This is about all of it. As piles of valuable materials appeared before them, the two men were left completely stunned. Even the female shop owner could not hide her surprise. Looking at one of the materials, she thought to herself, "He even has ice-armored crocodile hide. Did he go all the way to the deepest parts of Poison Dragon Valley?" Just when everyone thought the display was over, Jian Yang suddenly remembered something else. Reaching into his storage ring again, he pulled out another item and said, "Oh, right. There's also this." The moment the object appeared, both men stared at it with wide eyes. "Magic crystal." He actually brought out a magic crystal. Just who is this kid? Their earlier arrogance had completely disappeared. Now they could only look at Jian Yang with disbelief. Meanwhile, Jian Yang simply smiled and turned toward the shop owner. "Boss, could you tally everything up and tell me how much it's worth?" "Please hurry. I wouldn't want to hold up these two from their big business with you." After finishing the deal, the scene shows both of them sitting inside a luxurious VIP room. "Boss." Chin calmly looked over the transaction records before speaking in a professional tone. "According to our agreement, the total value of all the materials you brought comes to 78,500. The magic crystal is worth on 50,000. Adding everything together, the final amount comes to 2,238,500. It's all stored on this card." As she finished speaking, she placed a special card on the table in front of him. Jian Yang reached out toward it with a satisfied smile and said, "You're refreshingly straightforward." "Boss Chin, I'll gladly accept." However, before he could take the card, Boss Chin gently placed her hand over his and continued, "Also, this gold card marks you as a VIP client of Jinyu Pavilion. If you bring us magic crystals in the future, I can increase the recycling rate by another 10% for you." Hearing that, Jian Yang immediately stood up. A look of genuine appreciation appeared on his face as he respectfully replied, "Then I'll gratefully accept your kindness, Boss Chin." Soon afterward, Jian Yang left the VIP room and began walking out of Jinyu Pavilion. As he moved through the building, he quietly reflected on the transaction in his mind. Boss Chin is fair and reasonable. That's exactly why I chose to trade with her. She even gave me a VIP card and priority treatment. She clearly recognizes my potential. The more he thought about it, the more convinced he became that his decision had been the right one. In a world where strength determines status and opportunity, having the support of a powerful organization could make a huge difference. His confidence continued to grow as he thought about the future that awaited him. The moment Jian Yang stepped outside, he immediately noticed countless eyes turning toward him. Many people were secretly observing him, some with curiosity, some with envy, and others with intentions that were harder to read. Feeling those gazes focused on him from every direction, Jian Yang remained completely calm. Instead of feeling nervous, a faint smile appeared on his face as he thought to himself, "People with real ability are welcomed everywhere." As expected, overwhelming strength is the foundation of everything. If I want to earn those top national salaries and climb onto the Yan rankings, power is the absolute prerequisite. In this world, reputation, wealth, and influence all followed strength. Without enough power, none of those things could truly be secured. Not far away, two men were secretly watching him while talking among themselves. One of them grinned and said, "Second brother? Looks like we're cashing in again today." His tone carried obvious greed as the pair continued keeping their eyes on Jian Yang. Meanwhile, completely aware of the attention he was attracting, Jian Yang continued walking alone through the streets. He calmly assessed his current situation and thought, "Now that I've got money, I need some protection. Just having two weapons still doesn't feel safe enough." His instincts were already warning him that trouble was approaching. The sudden wealth he had obtained and the attention he had drawn were bound to attract unwanted people. Yet despite realizing this, he showed no sign of panic as he continued forward. His expression remained steady and composed. Then he silently admitted to himself, "As expected, I've been marked." However, there was not the slightest trace of fear in his heart. He had already anticipated this outcome long before leaving Jinyu Pavilion. From the moment he decided to sell valuable materials and reveal a portion of his capabilities, he knew that certain people would begin targeting him. To Jianyang, this was neither surprising nor alarming. Instead, it was simply another challenge on the path he had chosen. With unwavering confidence, he continued moving forward while thinking, "But this is all within my expectations. Whatever comes next, I'll be ready for it." As Jianyang continued walking, he carefully observed the two men following him from a distance. The closer they got, the stronger a certain smell became. After taking a moment to assess them, he silently narrowed his eyes and thought to himself, "That stench of blood on them, I'd bet everything. Inside those sacks they're carrying is stolen loot as well." Judging from their appearance and the murderous aura surrounding them, these were clearly not ordinary people. They had likely robbed and killed many victims before crossing paths with him. A cold smile appeared on Jianyang's face as another thought crossed his mind. Taking them out will count as doing a good deed. Meanwhile, the two pursuers were becoming increasingly confident as they followed him deeper into a quieter area. Seeing Jianyang continue forward alone, the older of the two brothers sneered and said, "This kid picked himself the perfect grave." The younger brother laughed cruelly before adding, "His uncle will probably be the first to hear that he's dead." In their eyes, Jianyang was nothing more than an inexperienced high school student carrying a large amount of money. They believed he had unknowingly walked straight into their trap. However, the moment Jianyang arrived at a deserted location, he suddenly stopped walking. The atmosphere immediately became tense. Without even turning around at first, he calmly spoke. "Took you long enough. I've been waiting." Hearing those words, both brothers were momentarily stunned. They had assumed they were the hunters, yet it suddenly sounded as though they had been led here on purpose. The older brother stepped forward while gripping his massive cleaver and looked at Jianyang with a mocking smile. "Kid, you're still in high school, right? We're both combat classes." Before Jianyang could respond, the younger brother confidently added, "Plenty of grown-ups have died at our hands. You're just the next one on the list." Their voices were filled with arrogance, as they tried to intimidate him with their experience and reputation. But instead of showing fear, Jianyang casually looked at them and replied in an exaggerated tone, "Combat classes? I'm so scared. A helpless little F-rank artisan like me could never beat you two." His words were dripping with sarcasm. Far from sounding frightened, he was openly mocking them. The older brother's expression immediately darkened with anger. "Brat, nothing about your face says you're scared." The younger brother quickly realized what was happening and shouted, "Big brother, he's obviously making fun of us." Jianyang didn't even bother hiding it anymore. He shrugged and openly admitted, "You're right. I am making fun of you." His calm attitude completely infuriated the two criminals. Enraged, the older brother immediately charged forward while raising his cleaver, preparing to cut Jianyang down in a single strike. At the same moment, the younger brother activated one of his skills and shouted, "Venom Imbue." Toxic energy immediately spread across his weapon as he prepared to attack, yet Jianyang remained perfectly calm. He casually snapped his fingers and quietly said, "Since my rebirth, this is the first time I've used this skill on humans." Then he activated one of his abilities. Activate skill modification. The moment the skill took effect, a strange and terrifying change occurred. Jianyang's modification ability instantly interfered with their skills and altered them. His own passive healing skill underwent an enhancement and rose to a higher level, while the abilities of his enemies were forcibly modified into something completely different. The older brother suddenly froze in confusion before his body began attacking itself uncontrollably. His muscles moved against his will as he started inflicting damage upon his own body. His confident expression instantly turned into one of horror. The younger brother was even worse off. As he watched the situation unfold, he screamed in panic. At that exact moment, his Venom Imbue skill was modified into a completely different ability called Consume. Instead of empowering him, the venom he had prepared for his enemy suddenly turned against its owner. The poison rapidly spread through his own body. His face turned pale as agony filled every part of him. Unable to remain standing, he collapsed to his knees while staring at Jianyang with disbelief. Finally, he could only choke out a desperate question. How is this possible? Ignoring their fear, Jianyang slowly walked forward. There was no excitement on his face, only calm certainty. Looking at the results of his skill, he quietly muttered, "So it's finally complete." Then he raised his sword and pointed it directly toward the two men. His voice became cold and sharp. "You've killed and robbed quite a few people, haven't you? Then your retribution is here." A few moments later, silence returned to the area. The two criminals who had once hunted countless victims were dead, having fallen to the very consequences of their own actions. After finishing them off, Jianyang searched through their belongings. While examining the items they carried, he suddenly noticed something familiar. Pulling out a piece of paper, he read it aloud. Wanted notice. B-rank fugitives Liu Dale and Xu Yong. For a moment, Jianyang stared at the notice before shaking his head in amusement. A faint smile appeared on his face as he looked at the corpses lying nearby. "You actually kept your own wanted Posters, Jianyang casually tossed the wanted notice onto the ground as he stepped forward and looked at the corpses one last time. A hint of disdain appeared in his eyes as he said, "But I won't touch dirty money from scum like you." So all that swagger was for nothing. Even after discovering that the two men were notorious fugitives, he had no interest in taking the wealth they had obtained through robbery and murder. To him, money stained with innocent blood was worthless. However, as he searched through their belongings, he finally found something that caught his attention. A slight smile appeared on his face. Good thing they had one piece of gear I can use. At that moment, a system window appeared before him, displaying all of the equipment's attributes in detail. The item looked ordinary and unimpressive at first glance. Jianyang examined it carefully before saying, "Looks plain enough. Time for my hands to turn trash into treasure." Then he activated his unique ability, Activate Skill Modification. The equipment instantly began to change. The attributes displayed on the system panel rapidly transformed one after another as the modification skill reshaped the item into something far more powerful. Waves of energy flowed across its surface as its quality continuously improved. After the process was complete, Jianyang picked up the newly upgraded piece of equipment and put it on, feeling its enhanced power. He nodded with satisfaction and said, as expected, "Trying to upgrade something into a legendary piece always causes unexpected changes." He carefully studied the design that had appeared on the coat. The pattern on the coat is a poison boar fiend sigil. Not exactly top tier, but still decent. Then another thought crossed his mind and his expression softened slightly. "I'll bring this back as a surprise for my sister." As he thought about returning home, his attention shifted toward an even more important matter. Besides, the college entrance exam is about to start. His eyes filled with determination. This time, it's my turn. Zhang Yan's turn to stun everyone. In his previous life, he had watched others rise to glory while he remained overlooked. This time would be different. He would become the center of attention. He would stand above everyone else. Soon afterward, Jianyang returned home carrying several items. The moment he entered, he called out, "Yao, come help me out." Hearing her brother's voice, Zhang Yao quickly came over. The moment she saw the pile of clothes and equipment he had brought back, her eyes widened in shock. "Bro, where did you get all of these?" Jianyang smiled while showing her the collection. "There are so many outfits. And this one's a powerful piece of armor, too." Zhang Yao looked completely stunned as she examined everything in front of her. To her, the amount of equipment seemed unbelievable. Seeing her reaction, Jianyang laughed and replied, "Obviously, your brother earned them fair and square." Then he suddenly remembered something and added, "Oh, right. Starting this month, your allowance is going up." Zhang Yao immediately waved her hands in panic. No, that's fine. 50 is enough for me." Jianyang shook his head without hesitation. "No way that's enough. From this month onward, it's going up to 500. If that's still not enough, just ask your brother anytime." Hearing that amount, Zhang Yao stared at him in disbelief. The increase was so large that she couldn't help wondering where all of this money had come from. Seeing the countless questions forming in her mind, Jianyang gently placed a hand on her head and smiled. "Stop that wild imagination. Tomorrow is my pre-college entrance exam pep rally. With your brother's level, I'll just show my face and come back. When I get home tomorrow night, I'll take you out for a good meal." His casual confidence immediately caught her attention. Curious, Zhang Yao looked at him and asked about his level. Without hesitation, Jianyang answered, 20. The number instantly left her speechless. Reaching level 20 in such a short amount of time was something very few people could accomplish. Meanwhile, Jianyang continued thinking about the future. The college entrance exam is usually held about a month after awakening. I only managed to reach level 20 because I happened to kill a few level 20 Jianyang outlaws by chance. Without targeted resource support even for me, it would have been a bit of a struggle. But once I become Nanyang City's top scorer, everything will change. His eyes shone with confidence. Becoming the top scorer would grant him access to resources, opportunities, and connections far beyond anything he currently possessed. It would be the first major step toward changing his fate completely. The next scene showed Jianyang standing on top of a building. A powerful wind blew across the city as he stared into the distance. Far ahead, a massive dimensional rift hung in the sky like a scar between worlds. Countless possibilities, dangers, and opportunities waited beyond it. Looking directly at the rift, Jianyang clenched his fists and declared with unwavering determination, "College entrance exam, here I come." The scene opened inside the Nanrong No 1 middle school gymnasium, where every student had gathered in neat lines. As the principal stood on the stage to deliver his speech, the atmosphere was filled with tension. Because the annual college entrance examination was finally approaching, the principal looked at the students and announced that the annual college entrance examination was almost here, and that they were the pride and hope of Nanrong No 1 middle school. He reminded everyone that after more than 10 years of relentless studying, the opportunity to completely change their destiny was now standing right in front of them. As Jianyang stood quietly among the students listening to the speech, he thought to himself that although the principal was repeating the same old cliches everyone had heard countless times, they were actually true for the awakened. Because for them, the college entrance examination really was the greatest opportunity to change their future forever. Jianyang continued thinking as he explained that every awakened person would have one of 4 different life paths, depending entirely on their performance in the college entrance examination. The first path belonged to those with outstanding grades. who managed to enter the best universities, these students had an extremely high chance of becoming trailblazers in the future. Exploring the dangerous demon lair world, they would receive full support from the state, including abundant cultivation resources and endless opportunities, making their future almost limitless. The second path was for students who performed well but failed to enter the top universities. They could choose to join the military and serve as garrison troops stationed within territories occupied by the demon lairs. Even they would receive support from the government, along with valuable cultivation resources. If they managed to strengthen their classes and prove themselves, they could one day rise through the ranks and become respected military leaders. The third path was meant for those awakened whose performance was only average, but still good enough to enter ordinary universities. These people would most likely become members of the Guardian Knights in the future. They would receive local support instead of national-level backing, and their cultivation resources would be far fewer. But for ordinary people with average talent, this was already considered an excellent future. The final path, however, belonged to those who lacked enough strength and failed the examination altogether. They would return to living ordinary lives within the cities, never achieving another breakthrough for the rest of their lives. In reality, this final outcome was the fate waiting for the overwhelming majority, because only 20% of people were capable of securing one of the first three paths, while the remaining 80% were destined to remain completely unknown. This was the harsh reality of the world after the demon lair invasion. A society built upon strict hierarchy and unimaginable cruelty, where strength determined everything, and anyone without enough power could be eliminated in the blink of an eye. As Jianyang finished reflecting on the cruel reality of the world, the principal concluded his speech and looked across the gathered students before making one final announcement. He declared that his speech was now over, and that the homeroom teachers of each class would begin screening the students. Immediately, anyone who had already reached level 15 or above would be directly exempted from taking the preliminary school examination. The principal announced that it was time to begin the screening process, and the moment those words echoed across the gymnasium, the atmosphere instantly became tense. Every student whose level was below 15 began feeling nervous and frustrated. Because they knew their fate would soon be decided, many of them looked worried, while others silently prayed that they would somehow pass the examination. Despite the anxiety spreading through the crowd, Jianyang stood there with a calm smile on his face. He quietly thought to himself that although he had been taken away in his previous life and had never personally experienced this event, he already understood how everything worked. As long as a student's level exceeded 15, they would automatically be judged as an outstanding talent. Looking at the situation before him, he calmly concluded that he probably would not need to participate in the so-called preliminary school test either. Just then, their training instructor stepped forward and began calling out the results. He announced that their class had a total of 5 students whose levels had already surpassed 15, however. He immediately added that only 4 of them would be exempt from the preliminary examination. Then he looked directly at Jianyang and called his name. He explained that although Jianyang had already reached a level above 15, he would still be required to participate in the preliminary school test. The reason was simple. Jianyang did not belong to a combat class, and on top of that, his class was only ranked F, making him an exception to the rule. The moment those words were spoken, the students around Jianyang immediately began whispering among themselves and making all kinds of mocking comments. His classmates looked at him with ridicule. While his longtime rival could not hide his satisfaction, he sneered loudly and declared that this was exactly the treatment an F rank deserved. Before openly calling Jianyang nothing more than worthless F rank trash, even so, Jianyang showed no sign of anger. Before the situation could become any worse, their training instructor walked over to him and spoke in a comforting voice. He told Jianyang not to lose heart, because he personally knew how outstanding he truly was. Unfortunately, this was the decision made by the school itself, and as a teacher, he had no authority to change it. Hearing those sincere words, Jianyang simply smiled at his teacher without the slightest hint of disappointment. He respectfully replied that he understood the situation, and that if that was the school's decision, then he would simply participate in the preliminary school test without any complaints. His calm response only made his enemy even more confused. As he watched Jianyang standing there so relaxed, he could not understand how someone in that position could remain so composed. He thought to himself that everyone already knew how formidable. A loud whistle echoed throughout the gymnasium, and immediately an announcement rang through the speakers, declaring that the preliminary school test had officially begun. The announcement explained that the preliminary school test was an internal screening held by every high school before the actual college entrance examination, and that only the final victor would earn the right to participate. In the real college entrance exam, it further revealed that the elimination rate was as high as 90%, making it one of the cruelest selection systems imaginable, where only the strongest and most capable students would survive, while everyone else would be left behind. The competition quickly got underway, and before long another announcement echoed across the arena, declaring that Zhang Xu from Class 9 had won the match for Group 8. As the battles continued, the principal and vice principal stood together, watching every match unfold from the observation area. The vice principal shook his head and remarked that it had already been a full month since everyone had awakened. Yet many of the students still had not even reached level 15. In his opinion, there was nothing worth expecting from their future, since most of them possessed only D rank or E rank classes, while many others had awakened crafting classes that were not even suited for combat. After hearing those words, the principal calmly replied that this year was different. He reminded the vice principal about Jiang Yan, the student who had held first place in both literary, studies, and martial arts for 3 consecutive years. He asked whether he still remembered that extraordinary young man. The vice principal immediately answered that of course he remembered him, and admitted that he too had once placed great hopes on Jiang Yan. However, he sighed with disappointment because no one had expected such a brilliant student to awaken an F-rank class. The vice principal continued, explaining that the principal already understood what an F rank truly represented originally. The lowest rank among awakened classes had always been E rank. But as the number of awakened individuals continued increasing, some incredibly weak E rank crafting classes began appearing. Their abilities were considered so poor that they were originally classified as trash rank, however. The authorities eventually decided that the word trash sounded far too insulting, so they officially renamed that category as F rank. Even if Jiang Yan had remained the top student in both academics and martial arts, the overwhelming difference in class quality made it absolutely impossible for him to win against the others. The principal listened quietly before responding with complete confidence. He reminded the vice principal not to judge people solely by the rank of their class. He pointed out that Lord Huo Yuanwu had also awakened an F rank class in the past, and yet he had risen all the way to become a level 70 venerable. He then firmly stated that no one should ever underestimate another person, especially someone as hardworking and determined as Jiang Yan. At last, the long-awaited announcement echoed across the arena as the referee called for the participants of Group 17 to step forward and take their positions. This was Jiang Yan's group, and the moment his name was called, he calmly walked into the arena. While every other participant readied themselves with their weapons in hand, everyone stood facing their opponents, prepared for a fierce battle. Yet Jiang Yan did something completely unexpected. Instead of looking at his enemies, he casually turned his back toward them and quietly thought to himself that it was finally his turn. He remembered the promise he had made to his sister, that he would take her out for a good meal, and smiled to himself because he had no intention of wasting unnecessary time in this place. The students watching from outside immediately recognized him. One of them pointed at Jiang Yan and exclaimed that he was currently sitting at the very top of the leaderboard and was considered a true genius. Another student added that Jiang Yan had already reached level 20. At that moment, someone else reminded everyone that despite his high level, he had only awakened an F-rank dual class. They quickly came up with a plan, suggesting that everyone should temporarily join forces to eliminate Jiang Yan first, and only after defeating him would they decide the winner among themselves. Hearing their discussion, Jiang Yan simply looked at them with complete confidence and calmly told them to come at him together. His words immediately enraged the others, and they shouted back that every one of them possessed combat classes, and there was no way they could fail to defeat a single person like him. As the battle officially began, Jiang Yan activated the ability of his magical storage ring, and instantly summoned his weapon into his hand, looking at his opponents. He casually remarked that their weapons were far too poor, and that the supplies he had obtained in Poison Dragon Valley were on an entirely different level. He even mocked them by saying they should have spent their money on buying better weapons. Before anyone could react, the principal and vice principal were both left completely stunned. Their minds focused on only 2 shocking facts. Jiang Yan actually possessed a storage ring, and the weapon he had just summoned was clearly an A-rank weapon. Without giving anyone time to recover from their surprise, Jiang Yan suddenly dashed forward at astonishing speed. His movement was so fast that he instantly passed straight through the group. While every spectator stared in disbelief, countless people began discussing what kind of footwork technique he was using because none of them had ever witnessed such incredible speed. Jiang Yan calmly crossed all of his opponents before stopping behind them and declaring in a relaxed voice that they had already lost. One of the students immediately protested, saying that Jiang Yan's agility might be extraordinary, but none of them had suffered even a single injury, so there was no way they had been defeated. Jiang Yan simply answered with a calm smile, saying that was so. As soon as those words left his mouth, every weapon held by his opponents suddenly split apart at the same moment. Their blades had all been cleanly cut, without any of them even noticing what had happened. During the instant Jiang Yan had rushed past them, he had already completed every strike. Seeing their destroy, one of the students trembled in fear before admitting that if Jiang Yan had truly wanted to kill them, they would all have been dead already. Realizing the overwhelming difference in strength, every one of them willingly accepted defeat. Moments later, the official announcement rang throughout the arena, declaring that Jiang Yan from Class 1 had won the Group 17 match. As Jiang Yan calmly walked out of the arena, he quietly reflected that after winning the preliminary school test, the official college entrance examination would begin in just 3 days. Now he could finally return home and treat his sister to the good meal he had promised her. He also felt satisfied because this battle had given him the perfect opportunity to provide a reasonable explanation for possessing the Qinggang sword. Now that everyone had seen him openly using it, no one would come looking for trouble over the weapon in the future. Watching Jiang Yan leave the arena, the vice principal could only shake his head in amazement and admit that the boy was truly different from everyone else. The principal smiled and replied that anyone capable of obtaining supplies from Poison Dragon Valley possessed strength far beyond what had been displayed in today's battle. He confidently added that even Lord Huo, Yuan Wu, had not been as astonishing as Jiang Yan when he was young. The vice principal silently agreed with every word. Then the principal looked toward the arena once more and said that Nanrong No One Middle School had never produced the city's top scorer before. But perhaps this year history would finally change, and that unbelievable achievement might belong to an F-rank student named Jiang Yan. After that, another announcement echoed throughout the venue as the results of the preliminary school test were revealed. Group 68, Zhengde Qiao from Class 24 wins. The preliminary school test is over. A total of 68 people advance. Soon, everyone who had qualified was directed toward the preliminary test winners' rest area where all the successful participants quietly took their seats. Jianyang was also sitting there, but instead of celebrating, he remained completely calm as countless thoughts ran through his mind. He silently began calculating the scale of the competition ahead. Nandrong No One Middle School has more than 1,000 students. In a single grade, there were 68 groups, which means 680 students participated in the preliminary test. Even after that, there are still more than 400 students who can normally take part in the college entrance examination. Adding the 68 students who advanced here, there are around 500 graduates from No One Middle School alone who will be participating in this year's college entrance examination in Nanrong. City has a total of 19 high schools. That means in this round of the college entrance examination, the number of my opponents will be close to 10,000. Just imagining the sheer number of competitors made him realize how difficult the road ahead would be. Winning first place against an army of nearly 10,000 talented students was far from an easy dream. It would require strength, determination, and absolute perfection, because even the smallest mistake could end everything. While Jianyang was still deeply lost in his thoughts, someone quietly walked over and sat down beside him. When he turned his head, he was surprised to see that it was the principal himself. Seeing such an important person suddenly sitting next to him caught him completely off guard, and he thought to himself, it's the principal. Why is he here? Before Jianyang could even ask anything, the principal smiled warmly and spoke in a relaxed tone. You've ranked first in both literary and martial arts for the past 3 years. I've personally presented awards to you several times, so you don't need to look so surprised, right? After hearing those words, Jianyang looked at the principal and replied with a respectful smile. You are not just the principal, but also one of the 12 guardian deities of Nanrong City. It is only natural for a student to be a little surprised when someone like you suddenly comes over and sits beside him, right? The principal could not help but laugh as he reached over and gave Jianyang a friendly pat on the shoulder. You really know how to talk, kid. I like this kind of flattery. But do you know what would make me even happier? Bring the top scorer title back to No One Middle School. His tone was light-hearted, but the hope in his eyes was completely genuine. Those words left Jianyang genuinely stunned. He looked at the principal with disbelief and asked, in this graduating class alone, we have 3 S-rank and 6A rank combat class Awakeners. Are you really that confident in me? An F rank to anyone else, such confidence would have sounded unreasonable. But the principal did not hesitate. For even a second, he smiled calmly before answering. So what if you are F rank as one of the 12 guardian deities of Nandrong City? Am I not only a C rank myself, kid? Never forget this. It is always the person who becomes strong, not the class humanities. Greatest strength has never been talent or rank. It is the heart that has the courage to draw its sword against any powerhouse, no matter how impossible the battle may seem. Hearing those powerful words, Jianyang was completely shaken deep. Inside, he could not help but admire the man sitting beside him. This principal really is different from the other powerhouses. In my past life, I never had many opportunities to interact with him, but now it seems he truly never judged me because of my modified talent. A feeling of respect naturally rose in Jianyang's heart as he looked at the principal and said with determination, "Thank you for your guidance, principal. I will give everything I have, and I promise I will do my best to bring the top scorer title back to No One Middle School." The principal smiled with satisfaction after hearing that answer. Then he raised his fist toward Jianyang and said, "Good, that is the spirit. This is a promise between us. Come on, let's bump fists. This is a promise between men." Without any hesitation, Jianyang raised his own fist and met the principal's with a firm bump, sealing their promise with unwavering determination as both of them looked toward the challenge that awaited ahead. After that, the two of them bumped their fists together, sealing their promise with complete determination. Their passionate exchange immediately caught the attention of the other students nearby, who had been watching everything. From a distance, some of them looked completely confused, while others could not stop themselves from making jokes. What are those two doing getting fired up for no reason? Are they made of white phosphorus, spontaneously combusting the moment they come into contact with air? The principal is already so old and he is still acting so chuny. No wonder no one middle school has not produced a top scorer for so many years, even though the students laughed among themselves. Neither Jianyang nor the principal paid any attention to their comments. Both of them understood that a true promise did not need anyone else's approval. After leaving the school, Jianyang quietly thought to himself, I promised my sister that I would treat her to a good meal. Since the official college entrance examination begins tomorrow, tonight is the perfect time to enjoy ourselves. After all, ever since our parents passed away, we have always lived on a very tight budget and rarely had the chance to eat anything special. Remembering everything they had been through together made him even more determined to keep his promise and give his sister at least one happy evening. Before the biggest day of his life, a little later, the two of them arrived in front of a luxurious restaurant that looked far beyond anything they would normally visit. The elegant building, sparkling lights, and beautifully decorated entrance immediately left his sister speechless. She looked around with nervous eyes before asking, we have never eaten at a place like this before, brother. Are we really going to eat here? Shouldn't we just go back? She knew very well how expensive places like this were and did not want her brother to spend so much money on her. Jianyang smiled confidently and replied, this is the place. Hearing that answer only made her even more worried. She looked at the restaurant once again and said, I've seen this place online. It's very expensive and extremely popular. From what I know, people can only get in if they make a reservation in advance. Jianyang simply took out his phone and showed her the reservation before saying, with a smile, your brother did his research long ago. The seats were already booked in advance. Come on, let's head inside. Seeing how carefully he had planned everything, her heart warmed with emotion. She quietly thought to herself, brother put so much thought into this, I shouldn't ruin his mood. As they walked toward the restaurant, Jianyang's sister quietly thought to herself, even though this restaurant is incredibly expensive, brother gave me some money as long as I save carefully over the next few months, our living expenses should still be enough. Brother has his college entrance examination tomorrow, so tonight I just want him to relax and enjoy himself. She knew better than anyone how hard her brother had worked, and she did not want him worrying about money on the night before such an important day. The moment the two of them stepped inside, they were warmly welcomed by a waitress with a polite smile. Good evening to both of you. Would you like to order from the menu, or would you prefer one of our recommended set meals? Without even looking at the menu, Jianyang answered calmly, please bring us set meal C. I already know those are all of your signature dishes. The waitress nodded respectfully and replied, of course, please wait just a moment. As she walked away, she could not help thinking to herself, they look like completely ordinary customers, but they are actually willing to spend quite a lot. While Jianyang sat quietly, sipping a glass of water, his sister hesitantly looked through the menu before turning toward him with wide eyes. Brother, the set meal C you ordered, is this really the most expensive set meal? The one that costs... Oneti? Jianyang nodded without any hesitation and replied, that's right, and if you see anything else you want to eat, don't hold back, you can order all of your favorites as well. The moment she heard him casually mention ordering even more food, she was completely stunned. Her mind immediately began racing. 2,980. That's almost 10 months of living expenses for our family. Brother didn't actually do anything illegal to suddenly become rich, did he? Just then, the peaceful atmosphere inside the restaurant was shattered as several noisy students barged through the entrance, shouting loudly, hey, what do you mean I can't eat here without a reservation? I have the college entrance examination tomorrow. You have to get me a table. A waiter quickly stepped forward and politely tried to calm them down. Sir, our restaurant accepts customers by reservation only. We are truly sorry. However, the young man named Wang had no intention of listening. He pointed aggressively at the staff and shouted, don't give me that nonsense. Hurry up and get a table ready for my brothers, or I'll smash this entire place right now. Seeing the waitress who had just taken their order being threatened like that, Jianyang's sister looked worried and quietly said, brother, the waitress who took our order looks like she's being harassed by some thug. Jianyang glanced toward the commotion with an expression that instantly turned cold. Before looking away, he commented in a calm but disdainful voice, are all the seniors from No 7 Middle School this kind of trash? Wang immediately turned toward Jianyang with an angry expression and shouted, what did you just say? One of his companions stepped forward as well and sneered, say it again if you've got the guts. Hey, I was wondering who it was. So it's the famous F-rank Jiang Yan from No 1 Middle School. Kid, there are barely any F-rank trash in all of Nanrong City. Do you want to find out how hard the fists of my C-rank combat class really are? The group laughed arrogantly, believing they could easily intimidate him, but Jianyang remained completely calm, as if none of their threats meant anything to him. After listening to all of Wang's insults, Jianyang casually lifted the glass of water in front of him and deliberately poured it straight onto Wang's face. Then he looked at him with a perfectly calm expression and said, "Sorry, my hand slipped." Those simple words completely shattered Wang's patience. His face twisted with rage as he immediately activated his combat class ability. His arm rapidly transformed. As he roared, "You actually dared to splash water on me, I'll smash your face in seeing Wang." Charging forward, Jianyang's sister was terrified and cried out, "Brother, watch out." Just as Wang's transformed fist was about to strike someone, suddenly appeared between them. A powerful hand grabbed Wang's arm so firmly that he could not move another inch. Then an angry voice exploded through the restaurant. "Wangzhou, what the fuck are you doing?" Wang froze. The moment he recognized the newcomer, and his expression instantly changed. "Brother Tao, why are you here?" Jianyang immediately recognized him as well. Liu Tao AB, rank combat class powerhouse and one of the students capable of ranking within the top 50 of No 7 Middle School. Hoping Liu Tao would support him, Wang quickly explained, "Brother Tao, I'm just teaching this rank trash from No 1 Middle School a lesson. Don't worry about it, I'll make him understand his place right now." Before Wang could finish speaking, Liu Tao violently shoved him backwards, sending him stumbling away before roaring with killing intent, "You fucking dare raise your hand against Brother Yan, do you have a death wish?" Wang was completely stunned. He looked at Liu Tao in disbelief and hurriedly said, "Brother Tao, you must be mistaken. He's just an rank trash from No 1 Middle School." At that very moment, another calm voice came from behind them. "He's not mistaken. If he had arrived even a little later, your hand would already be crippled by now." Everyone turned toward the entrance, and their expressions instantly changed. The moment Wang and his friends recognized the newcomer, they were so shocked that they almost stopped breathing. The young master of the Lu family, young master Lu Yuan. Wang's heart began racing as he thought to himself, Lu Yuan, the S-rank combat class genius who ranks among the top 3 students of No 7 Middle School. Why is he here? Meanwhile, Jianyang simply looked at him and smiled before casually saying, "What a coincidence." Xiao Yuan. Lu Yuan immediately frowned and replied, "Don't call me by my real name." Like that, hearing such a casual conversation left Wang and all of his companions completely dumbfounded. They stared at Jianyang in utter disbelief, wondering how someone they had been calling trash was speaking to the young master of the Lu family as if they were close friends. Jianyang then glanced toward Wang and the others before calmly saying, "It seems the students of your No 7 Academy were never taught how to behave properly." The moment those words were spoken, Wang and his friends felt a chill run through their bodies. They could not understand what was happening anymore. The F-rank student they had looked down upon was speaking fearlessly in front of Liu Yuan while Liu Tao was openly protecting him. Their minds were filled with confusion and fear as they silently wondered what exactly is going on here. Even after everything that had just happened, Wang still couldn't wrap his head around it. He's just an F-rank piece of trash. How the hell is he chatting with an S-rank big shot like it's the most normal thing in the world? Just who the hell is this guy? The more he thought about it, the more confused and frustrated he became. Jianyang, on the other hand, couldn't care less. Looking at them with complete indifference, he said calmly, "Whatever. I don't have the energy to deal with you. Apologize to the waitress and get the hell out of my sight." The moment those words left his mouth, all of them immediately lowered their heads in front of him and replied, "Yes! Right away, Boss Jiang." Without wasting another second, they hurried over to the waitress, bowed deeply, and sincerely apologized. "We're incredibly sorry. Please forgive the disturbance." The waitress remained composed and simply smiled before replying, "It's fine. Just make sure to book a reservation next time." Embarrassed beyond words, the 3 of them quickly turned around and ran out of the restaurant as fast as they could. Watching them disappear in such a hurry, the waitress couldn't help but think to herself, "Though from the look of it, I doubt he's ever showing his face here again." After the awkward incident was finally over, Lu Yuan looked at Jianyang with a smile and said, "Funny running into you here, but I'd be a hell of a lot happier if I saw you at the city's college exam finals." Jianyang answered without missing a beat. "Then you'd better bust your ass, because otherwise, if you don't even make it to the finals, how are you supposed to see me?" Hearing that confident reply only fueled Lu Yuan's competitive spirit. He grinned and pointed at Jianyang before saying, "Just you wait until the finals. We'll see exactly who's the one not making the cut." After hearing Lu Yuan's challenge, Jianyang smiled to himself. He might be a rival, but he's really not a bad kid. Instead of holding any grudges, he found himself respecting Lu Yuan's determination and competitive spirit. Just then, the waitress returned to their table with a warm smile. "Sorry for the wait. Here is your set menu. Premium grade chuck roll." One after another, the rest of the dishes they had ordered were carefully brought to the table as well. Before long, the entire table was filled with an incredible variety of beautifully prepared, high-quality dishes. Seeing the feast laid out in front of him, Jianyang couldn't help but smile with satisfaction. Across the table, Xiaoyao's eyes sparkled with excitement as she stared at the luxurious meal. "Just hearing the names is making my mouth water. These are the crazy expensive ingredients I've only ever seen on social media. This is unbelievable. I never got to taste anything like this back when I was a lab rat in My past life. God bless freedom, it's so good. I'm the luckiest girl in the world to have a big brother who treats me to this. She could barely contain her happiness as she eagerly enjoyed every bite. At that moment, the expressions on both Jianyang's and Xiaoyao's faces were almost identical, each of them smiling with pure satisfaction while enjoying the meal together. As they continued eating, Jianyang glanced at his sister and asked, Xiaoyao, aren't you going to ask who those guys were? Or how I know them? Without even looking up from her food, Xiaoyao casually replied, because it doesn't matter who they are. No matter what happens or who you become, you're still my big brother. Her simple yet heartfelt answer caught Jianyang completely off guard. For a brief moment, he sat there in silence before a gentle smile appeared on his face. This is family. This is exactly what I'm fighting to protect in this life. I'm keeping this world safe no matter what it takes. The scene then shifted to the long-awaited day of the Nanrong City College entrance exam. Deep inside the demon rift of Nanrong City, the atmosphere was filled with excitement and tension as countless students gathered for the biggest day of their lives. A citywide announcement echoed across the examination grounds, reaching every participant. The annual college entrance exam officially begins today. Every single one of you is a 1 in 100 talent. This is the moment that decides your fate. The powerful announcement immediately raised everyone's spirits, reminding them that years of hard work would finally be tested today. The scene then moved to the college exam preliminary square, where thousands of examinees were waiting for the exam to begin. Looking around at the crowd, Jin Yang couldn't help but smile to himself. Funny. Everyone spent the last 3 years wearing school uniforms, but today, of all days, they all decided to ditch them. I'm the only one still wearing mine. He lowered his eyes toward his uniform before continuing his thoughts. Well, I did promise the principal that I'd bring the top scorer title back home to first. Hi, after all, if I'm not wearing the uniform, how is anyone supposed to know I'm representing them? With that thought, he stood proudly among the crowd, wearing his school uniform without the slightest bit of embarrassment. A moment later, the chief announcer stepped forward and began explaining the rules of the preliminary examination. The rules for this year's preliminaries are incredibly simple. Hunt down the demonic beasts. Within the occupied rift zone, you'll earn points based on the strength of the beasts you kill. As soon as the rules were announced, everyone understood that there would be no written tests or complicated challenges, only a real battle against demonic beasts, where every kill would determine their final score and ranking. The person overseeing the entire examination was introduced as Luo Sheng, the chief examiner of Nanrong City Awakener High School. The chief examiner continued explaining the rules in a clear, commanding voice. The top 100 students on the leaderboard will advance to the finals. The sensor bracelets you've been issued will automatically calculate a beast's point value based on its aura. You have a 6-hour time limit. Choosing your targets wisely is a crucial part of your strategy. Then I wish you all the best of luck on the battlefield. As soon as the final words echoed across the square, the massive gates slowly began to open, and the countdown clock immediately started ticking. In an instant, the atmosphere exploded with excitement as every participant rushed toward the entrance, determined to secure a place among the top 100. Some students confidently declared that one of those spots already belonged to them, while others loudly claimed that the area is packed with the strongest monsters were theirs to conquer. Everyone was overflowing with confidence, eager to prove they deserved to advance to the finals. Walking calmly through the crowd, completely unfazed by all the shouting around him, Jianyang quietly analyzed the situation in his mind. The rules sound simple enough, but there's a lot more to them beneath the surface. For starters, the specific rift zone they chose for the exam is the absolute best testing ground, the sinister demon forest. The monsters in this area range from level 15 to level 25. Unlike Poison Dragon Valley, there aren't any terrifying, overpowered boss-tier monsters lurking around here. On top of that, the sheer variety of monster species means their individual strength varies wildly, making this the perfect battlefield to properly test a large group of students. While everyone else was thinking only about charging forward and earning points, Jianyang was already analyzing the logic behind the exam's design. A moment later, all of the examinees were teleported into the sinister demon forest. The dense forest stretched endlessly in every direction, filled with towering trees and a heavy, ominous atmosphere. Even after arriving inside the rift zone, Jianyang remained completely composed. Those are the lingering abilities of, Narong City's strongest paragons, he thought as he sensed the powerful aura spread throughout the forest. They're here to keep any high-level beasts from wandering too close. At the end of the day, this is still a college entrance exam. They're not going to gamble with the students' lives. A faint smile crossed his face as memories from his previous life resurfaced. I might not have taken the college entrance exam back then, but I practically lived in this place while the top-tier powerhouses were using it to power level me, so I definitely know my way around. Not long after entering the forest, a warrior suddenly raised his voice and shouted to everyone nearby. The rules never said we couldn't team up. Anyone want to form a hunting party? The points get split, sure, but our clearing speed will be way faster. As soon as he made the offer, several students immediately gathered around him. One after another, they introduced themselves and announced their classes and levels, hoping to be accepted into the party. I'm a level 16 healer. Take me with you. Another student quickly stepped forward and reported his own level, while more and more examinees rushed over, eager to join the group. Everyone understood that surviving and earning points would be much easier with a well-balanced team. At that moment, a young girl walked over to Jianyang and asked curiously, "So, what's your class?" Jianyang answered without the slightest hesitation, "I'm an F-rank farmer." The instant she heard those words, her expression changed completely. Without saying another word, she immediately turned around and hurried back to the warriors group. The students standing there looked at her with confused expressions, and she awkwardly laughed before saying, "I was just asking as a joke." The others quickly began discussing, Jianyang among themselves, "If we let someone like him join us, he'll only slow us down. An F-rank farmer would just drag the whole team back." None of them wanted anything to do with him. However, Jianyang had never intended to join their party in the first place. Completely ignoring their comments, he calmly walked past them and continued deeper into the forest. As he made his way down the mountain path, Jianyang smiled to himself. Being an F-rank sure makes it easy to get tossed aside, but honestly, I'm starting to get used to it. Besides, flipping the script and slapping everyone in the face is exactly how I operate. His confidence never wavered for even a second. Reaching the bottom of the slope, he slowly drew his weapon from its sheath, his eyes filled with determination. Looking straight ahead, he declared, "The name Zhang Yan is going to become a legend in this exam." The scene then shifted to the Nanrong City College exam observation room, where principals from every academy had gathered to watch their students compete in real time. Huge screens displayed the battlefield while a live leaderboard continuously updated every participant's score. Watching the competition with excitement, the principal of Third High smiled and said, "I can't wait to see how fierce the competition gets today." The gap between the top scorer and the runner-up over the past few years has been razor thin. Sitting nearby, the principal of 7th High responded proudly, "My 7th High produced 4 S-rank prodigies this year. I'm afraid the city's top scorer is coming from 7th High once again." Hearing that boast, Shanyang's principal immediately replied with a calm but confident smile, "You're an A-rank class yourself, but I don't see you being any stronger than me. Judging someone's potential purely by their class rank is a fool's errand." The principal of 7th High laughed dismissively before answering, "Are you talking about that F-rank trash from your school who somehow scraped by in academics and combat for 3 straight years? Don't tell me you actually think he can take the top score spot." Before Jianyang's principal could respond, the principal of 3rd High nodded and added, "You're right, that rank isn't everything. But an F-rank class doesn't even have the right to sit at the same table as the rest of us." Those words instantly angered Jianyang's principal. Slamming his hand on the table, he shouted, "That's a load of bullshit and you know it. That student of mine shattered multiple clear records back in the novice training base. He's going to blow your damn minds. Just you wait and see." Despite his confidence, the other 2 principals simply laughed louder than before. Neither of them took his words seriously, and they continued, mocking both Jianyang and his academy without the slightest concern. However, only a few moments later, something unexpected happened. The leaderboard suddenly updated, and the entire observation room fell silent. Every principal stared at the screen in complete disbelief. Seeing the results, Jianyang's principal couldn't hide his excitement and proudly exclaimed, "You're amazing, little brat." Meanwhile, the other 2 principals could only stare at the leaderboard in shock. How can an F-ranker do something like this? They wondered, unable to believe what they were seeing. The camera focused on the leaderboard, where Zhang Yan had already accumulated 36 points, placing him firmly in first place. The scene immediately returned to Jianyang, who stood calmly beside the massive corpse of a defeated monster, pulling his sword out of the beast's body. He smiled and said, "Talk about lucky, running into a level 20 beast right out of the gate." He then looked ahead and saw 3 more monsters waiting in front of him. Without the slightest hint of fear, he raised his sword once again, smiled confidently, and said, "I guess I'll just have to gladly accept the points from you 3 as well." After seeing the monsters standing right in front of him, Jianyang was visibly surprised. Looking at them carefully, he thought to himself, "Black-striped demon. Tigers are some of the most ferocious beasts in the sinister demon forest. It's just a shame we aren't allowed to harvest materials from the beasts we killed during the exam. What a waste." The very next moment, the entire pack charged straight toward him, determined to tear him apart. But instead of backing away, Jianyang calmly stepped forward with his sword in hand and said, "For an ordinary student taking the exam, trying to fight a whole pack of these things is just as suicidal as taking on a top-tier boss solo. But for me, they're basically cannon fodder. After all, even the wealthiest families in Nanrong City couldn't easily get their hands on gear like the cyan steel, sword, and the Kirin skin trench coat." Without wasting another second, Jianyang dashed forward at incredible speed. In a single smooth movement, he slashed past one of the black-striped demon tigers, and before the beast even realized what had happened, it collapsed to the ground, already dead. At the same time, a notification appeared, rewarding him with 900 XP, while his bracelet also awarded him 36 points for the kill. However, the battle was far from over. Seeing one of their own fall, one of the remaining demon tigers suddenly activated its special skill. In an instant, its entire body began to transform as its skin changed completely, making it look even more terrifying and far more dangerous than before. The moment Jianyang witnessed this transformation, a confident smile appeared on his face as he looked straight at the beast and said, "Activating a skill? You just played right into my hands. Activating skill, modify." As soon as Jianyang activated his modification ability, he snapped his fingers. In that instant, the black-striped demon tiger standing before him was affected by the skill. Its ability was completely altered, causing its agility to decrease by 15%, while its strength was also significantly reduced. The sudden debuff caught the beast completely off guard, leaving it unable to react properly. Jianyang didn't give it even a single moment to recover. He rushed forward and brought his sword down in one clean strike, killing the monster instantly. As the beast collapsed, he calmly said, "The sheer shock of realizing your own skill is debuffing you leaves you wide open for a fatal strike." Just like before, defeating the monster rewarded him with 900 XP, and his bracelet granted him another 36 points. Witnessing the deaths of its companions, the third and final black-striped demon tiger immediately realized it had no chance of winning. Fear took over and it turned around and began running for its life. Watching it flee, Jianyang smiled and said, "Figuring out you need to run away now?" But by then it was already far too late. "You still have to die." The moment those words left his mouth, he threw his sword with perfect precision. The blade shot through the air like lightning and pierced the fleeing monster, killing it instantly. Jianyang received its experience points and bracelet points as well. After retrieving his sword, he calmly wiped the blood from its blade and declared, "I need to push deeper into the forest, because my goal was never just to take first place. It's to become an absolute legend in this exam." Right after that, the scene shifted to the live leaderboard. Everyone's rankings were displayed in real time. At the very top stood rank 1, Jiang Yan, 108 points, followed by rank 2, Li Yufeng, 73 points, and rank 3, Lu Yuan, 69 points. One of the students staring at the rankings couldn't believe what he was seeing. With a look of complete disbelief, he shouted, "How the hell did an Frank piece of trash sneak his way into the top 10? And he actually has the nerve to rank higher than our boss, Yufeng?" After that, we are introduced to the person watching the rankings. He is a student from 3rd high school, and his name is Zhao. Standing beside him are a pair of twin brothers who clearly admire Li Yufeng. Filled with confidence, they say, "Boss Yufeng is an S-rank sword saint. There's no way he's losing to some F-rank loser." The other twin immediately agrees, adding, "Exactly. That F-rank trash has to be cheating somehow." After listening to both of them, Zhao lets out a cold smile and says, "If that punk wants to play dirty, why don't we show him how it's really done?" Hearing those words, the twins instantly realize that Zhao already has something in mind. Excited, they reply, "Looks like you've got a great plan." Then, with complete confidence, they declare, "The top scorer title this year belongs to Boss Yufeng of 3rd High. No one else." The scene then shifts back to Jianyang, who is currently locked in battle against a massive monster deep inside the forest. After an intense fight, he finally brings the creature down. As it falls to the ground, Jianyang frowns slightly and says, "This is weird. The deeper I go, the fewer strong monsters I'm running into." A moment later, his bracelet rewards him with more points and experience for the kill. Just then, the sound of someone clapping echoes through the forest. A voice praises him. Incredible! I'd expect nothing less from the guy sitting at the number 1 spot. Hearing the unexpected compliment, Jianyang immediately becomes alert and looks toward the source of the voice. "Who's there?" he asks. A few moments later, Zhao and the two twin brothers step out from behind the trees, revealing themselves. Wearing friendly smiles, Zhao speaks first and says, "Hey there, boss. Jiang Yan. We're from 3rd High and we were hoping to team up with you. Would you be open to a little collaboration?" Jianyang turned around and started walking away without any hesitation. Without even looking back, he coldly said, "I'm not interested." However, deep down, he was already analyzing the situation. Looking at the three of them, he thought to himself, just by looking at their faces, it's obvious they didn't come here with good intentions. They're here for a completely different reason. Before he could leave, Zhao quickly stepped in front of him and blocked his path. With a confident smile, he said, "What if we told you we know where a monster nest is? It's crawling with powerful beasts. We're talking massive points." Standing behind him, the twin brothers immediately nodded in agreement and added, "Exactly." After hearing their offer, Jianyang remained calm on the outside, but his mind was already racing. These guys, they're definitely planning something. Out of the tens of thousands of kids taking this exam, they specifically tracked me down, and they threw out bait they knew I couldn't ignore. It's almost cute how painfully obvious this trap is. High schoolers really are amateurs. A faint smile appeared on his face as another thought crossed his mind. But if you want to play dirty with me, I'll pay you back tenfold. The very next second, Jianyang completely changed his expression and began acting like someone who had fallen for their trick. His eyes lit up with excitement as he eagerly asked, "Are you serious? You actually found a nest? I've been running in circles trying to find a decent cluster of monsters." After hearing Jianyang's response, Zhao secretly smiled to himself. "Looks like he took the bait. If you think you can steal first place from Boss Yufeng, we'll drag you straight to hell." Keeping up his friendly act, Zhao enthusiastically said, "You bet it's true. Follow us. We need to hurry before someone else snatches it up." As the group moved deeper into the forest, Zhao continued thinking to himself, "We'll lure him out to the middle of nowhere and beat him half to death. Then he won't be able to get in Boss Yufeng's way ever again. Besides, Boss Yufeng's old man is paying us a fortune for this." At that moment, the story flashes back to an earlier conversation. A mysterious man had given Zhao and the two twins their mission, saying, "Do whatever it takes to clear out anyone threatening Yufeng's rank. In return, I'll pull some strings and secure your enlistment in the military. You boys are B and C rank classes. You should know better than anyone that a career in the military is a hell of a lot brighter than rotting in some ordinary university." Back in the present, Che recalled those words and thought, "I figured the only ones threatening Boss Yufeng would be the S-rank prodigies. I never imagined an F-rank loser would somehow sneak his way to the top. The second we deal with this trash, our golden ticket to the military is secured." A short while later, Jianyang looked ahead and calmly said, "It really does look like a nest up ahead." As he started walking toward the monsters, the twin brothers suddenly panicked. "Wait! Get him away from those monsters!" they shouted. Realizing this was the perfect opportunity to attack, Zhao and both twins immediately drew their weapons. In their minds, they thought, "We're completely isolated out here. It's the perfect time to strike." One of the twins rushed forward with his club, preparing to smash Jianyang from behind. But before he could land the attack, a gigantic monster suddenly swooped down from the sky and snatched him away. The creature was a blue-winged vulture, level 25. In the very next moment, it hurled the twin violently back to the ground, leaving him badly injured. Watching this unexpected turn of events, Zhao's face turned pale as he thought, "What is a beast like that doing all the way out here? Don't tell me. That bastard is smiling. Shit, we walked right into his trap." Meanwhile, Jianyang remained completely calm. Thinking to himself, he said, "I wasn't lying when I said I knew my way around the sinister demon forest. It's just that the blue-winged vultures are so rare. I didn't want to waste time tracking them down. But right now, they're exactly what I need." Hearing this, Zhao could no longer stay calm. He shouted in disbelief, "You knew there was a sub-boss tier monster hiding out here the entire time, didn't you?" Jianyang looked at him with an ice-cold expression and replied in a calm, emotionless voice, "Weren't you the ones who wanted to play dirty? I'm just returning the favor, and clearly you guys suck at it." Zhao prepared to launch a full attack, his anger boiling over as he shouted, "You knew everything from the start. You were just playing us this whole time." Hearing that, Jianyang answered without the slightest hesitation, "Yeah, I did. What about it? Did you really think I'd be an easy target just because I'm an F rank?" As he slowly drew his sword, his calm expression never changed. Pointing the blade forward, he declared, "Too bad you picked a fight with the wrong guy." On the other side, Zhao charged straight at him, roaring, "Don't get cocky, you piece of F-rank trash." At the same time, he activated one of his skills and unleashed a barrage of rapid slashes, trying to overwhelm Jianyang from every direction. "I'm gonna cut you to pieces," he yelled as his attacks closed in. But Jianyang didn't even need a complicated move. With a single effortless swipe of his sword, he shattered Zhao's blade into pieces. Without showing even a hint of struggle, he readied himself once again and said, "You don't have what it takes." The difference in strength was so overwhelming that Zhao was left critically injured after that single exchange. He collapsed onto the ground, blood spilling from his mouth, while disbelief filled his mind. How is this even possible? He wondered. He's supposed to belong to the weakest class in F rank. Fear quickly replaced his shock as another thought crossed his mind. Students die every year during the entrance exams. He's definitely going to kill me. He's really going to do it. Zhao froze in disbelief as he watched. Jianyang calmly put his sword back into his storage. Instead of finishing him off, Jianyang slowly walked over and said, "I'm not like you guys. Besides, trash like you isn't even worth killing." Those words struck Zhao harder than the battle itself. Completely stunned, he could only stare at Jianyang in silence as a bitter thought filled his mind. Am I not even worthy of dying by his hands? Without looking back, Jianyang continued, "I'm an upstanding, law-abiding citizen. Why would I go around murdering people over nothing? I'm nothing like these nobodies. I'm the man who's going to be the top scorer of Nanrong City." His voice remained calm and confident, making it clear that he had never considered Zhao or the others to be real opponents in the first place. As Jianyang peacefully continued walking forward, one of the twin brothers who had been lying injured on the ground suddenly grabbed his leg and desperately pleaded, "Please save my brother." Jianyang looked up and saw the other twin struggling in the claws of a massive eagle, screaming, "Let me go, you bastard!" The injured brother's eyes were filled with regret as he begged again, "We were wrong. We never should have tried to hurt you. Please just save my little brother." Hearing those words, Jianyang paused for a moment. His expression softened slightly before he bent down, picked up a stone, and said, "I have a younger sister too. Consider this a favor on her behalf. While we're at it, watch closely. This is the real gap between us." The moment he threw the stone forward, it shot through the air with incredible force. In the very next instant, the giant eagle dropped straight to the ground and died on the spot. As the system notifications appeared, Jianyang received 1,500 experience points along with 50 status points for defeating a level 25 beast. After the younger twin safely landed on the ground, he looked at Jianyang in complete shock before angrily shouting, "How is this guy completely fine?" The younger twin immediately assumed the worst and thought to himself, "Did my brother and boss Ao not make a move? Fine then. I'll take him down myself." Without wasting another second, he pulled out his claws and rushed forward, preparing to attack Jianyang from behind. But just before he could strike, his older brother suddenly stepped in front of him and stopped him. Startled, the younger brother shouted, "Bro, what are you doing? Aren't we supposed to cripple this kid?" Instead of answering calmly, his older brother smacked him across the head and yelled, "Shut your mouth! Boss Zhang Yan just saved your life. Get this through your head. Even if we drop dead right here, we are never laying a finger on him." His voice was filled with absolute seriousness, leaving no room for argument. Meanwhile, Jianyang continued walking away without looking back. As he glanced at the twins, he thought to himself, "At least they aren't completely brain dead. I've already wasted enough time here. I need to hurry up and rack up more points." As he moved deeper into the exam area, his thoughts shifted toward the battles that were still ahead. For now, I can freely use my modify skill to dominate this survival phase, but I absolutely can't use it during the top 100 arena tournament. Countless elite students from all over Nanrong City will be watching those matches. If even a single expert figures out the secret behind my modify skill, I'll be in serious trouble. So how am I supposed to fight A-rank and S-rank powerhouses with all of their flashy skills? There are simply too many broken abilities out there. Relying on pure combat mechanics alone won't guarantee victory. The high schools of Nanrong City are filled with hidden monsters. That means my best option is to figure this out right now. I need to test out my most practical skills before it's too late. Jianyang quickly came up with a new plan. I'll use Modify to permanently rewrite my 5 skills into ones that are focused entirely on combat. Once I test them out and discover the best combinations, I can safely use those abilities in the arena. That will greatly increase my chances of winning while keeping the existence of my Modify skill completely hidden. Satisfied with the idea, he stretched his body and said, "I should track down another nest and test them out while I grind. After all, every second counts in this exam." Without wasting another moment, he dashed forward at full speed. As he raced through the battlefield, another thought crossed his mind. How else am I supposed to keep my massive lead? Meanwhile, the scene shifted back to the exam observation room. The principal of 3rd High School looked at the remaining time and announced, "There are only 10 minutes left until the exam ends." The principal of 7th High School looked worried as he stared at the rankings and said, "The current rankings are looking a bit grim for us." Before the tension could settle, the principal of 1st High School, who looked incredibly pleased, immediately responded with a wide smile. "Grim? What do you mean grim? I'd say they're looking fantastic. I think the situation is perfectly optimistic." He then excitedly turned toward the leaderboard, cheering at the top of his lungs. "Attaboy, Zhang Yan." The leaderboard was displayed for everyone to see, and the rankings left the entire audience speechless. 1st High School. Jiang Yan, F-rank Tinker, F-rank Farmer, 1998 points. 2nd place. 3rd High School. Liu Feng, S-rank Sword Saint, 1032 points. 3rd place. 7th High School. Liu Yuan, S-rank Gale Assassin, 983 points. Looking proudly at the rankings, the principal of 1st High School smiled and said, "I'd expect nothing less from the man I personally acknowledged." Meanwhile, another principal stared at the leaderboard in complete disbelief and shouted, "Just what the hell is going on with that F-rank kid?" The principal of 7th High School was equally stunned as he exclaimed, "He's an F-rank, yet he's nearly doubling the 2nd place score. How is that even mathematically possible?" Even the host of the entire tournament couldn't hide her shock. As she looked at Zhang Yan's unbelievable performance, she wondered to herself, just what kind of monster did we stumble upon? The scene then shifted back to Jianyang. Surrounded by countless monster corpses, he sat calmly on top of the massive pile and let out a quiet sigh. Soloing an entire monster nest definitely took a bit of effort. As the final points were added, his total score climbed past 2,100 points. At that very moment, the announcement echoed throughout the entire examination area. The exam has officially concluded. Any beast killed after the time limit will not be counted toward your score. The announcement repeated again. The exam has officially concluded. Any beast killed after the time limit will not be counted toward your score. And then it rang out for a third and final time. Hearing the announcement, Junyang remained seated for a moment before saying, "Looks like it's finally over." But the timing couldn't have been better. Thanks to that guy? He slowly stood up and continued. I've already finished modifying all 5 of my skills. The top 100 arena tournament is going to be my perfect stage to shine once again. Right after that, the announcer's voice echoed throughout the examination hall. This year's examination has officially come to an end. Those whose rankings did not make it into the top 100, please leave on your own and wait for your admission. Notices. The announcement instantly filled the atmosphere with mixed emotions. If you didn't enter the top 100, then getting into a top-tier university is basically out of the question. After all, there are so many cities across the country, and only 10 top universities in total. Sigh, if I can just get into a second-tier, or even a third-tier university, it would already bring honor to my ancestors. As everyone reacted to the results, Jianyang stepped forward while silently organizing his thoughts. Even though there are 10 top universities, they are divided into different tiers. The highest tier is known as the National Top Universities, and there are only 3 of them. Rongguang University, which advocates capturing demon lairs and expanding humanity's territories. Chuanxi University, which focuses on protecting human civilization and sealing demon lair rifts. And Lixing University, a prestigious academy that excels in both offense and defense. To earn a place in any of these 3 elite universities, only the top 30 students from each city are qualified to apply. No matter which one a person manages to enter, it is nothing less than a meteoric rise that can completely change their future. But if it's about following my own ideals, then my choice should be just then. A swordmaster walked over to Jianyang and called out, "Hey, let's go!" Why are you still spacing out? The speech is already over. The top 100 tournament officially begins in 3 days, and our principal asked everyone who made it into the top 100 to gather over there. Jianyang turned to look at him and asked, "So, you also made it into the top 100? His friend immediately looked at him with a confused expression and replied, "What? Was I not supposed to make it? I'm the 2nd strongest martial artist at number 1 middle school, all right? I'm only 2nd to you. I'm pretty strong too." As they walked together, Jianyang quietly sank into his own thoughts. My choice is Rongguang University. The monsters inside the demon lair will eventually become impossible to control. If humanity fails to launch a counterattack, capture the demon lair, and continue expanding its territory, they will remain on the defensive forever. Only offense is the best defense. That belief had already become deeply rooted in his heart, and it was the very reason he had decided on the path he wanted to follow. After a brief silence, Jianyang looked at his friend and asked, "By the way, have you decided which university you want to apply for?" His friend answered confidently, "With my grades, I should be able to rank somewhere within the top 80, right? As for the top 10 universities, I shouldn't have any problem getting into either Yaoshi University, which is ranked 8th, or Hongmeng University, which is ranked 9th. What about you?" Without the slightest hesitation, Jianyang replied, "My goal is Rongguang University." The moment those words left Jianyang's mouth, his friend froze in complete disbelief. His eyes widened in shock as he quickly reached out and placed a hand on Jianyang's forehead, checking him with a worried expression, before blurting out, "Did you burn your brain out?" "That's Rongguang University, the number 1 university in the entire nation." Jianyang gently pushed his friend's hand away and said with complete confidence, "As long as I become the top scorer of Nanrong City, getting into Rongguang University is nothing. What's there to be so surprised about?" Hearing that, his friend immediately shook his head and replied, "But the problem is, actual arena combat is completely different from hunting magical beasts to earn points. Those A rank and S rank experts have an overwhelming advantage. The power and intensity of their innate skills are on an entirely different level. There's no way your useless F rank ability can compete with them." The moment those words left his mouth, however, he regretted saying them. "You shouldn't have said that. He's going to feel bad," he quietly thought to himself. To his surprise, Jianyang showed no sign of being offended. Instead, he calmly nodded and replied, "Yeah, that is a problem. In combat classes, forget about S rank. Even a B rank's innate skill possesses an intensity that this kind of trash simply can't compare to." Hearing such a relaxed response, his friend let out a silent sigh of relief. Thank goodness. He didn't take it to heart at all, he thought. believing Jianyang had accepted the harsh reality without being hurt by it. At the same time, Jianyang glanced at his friend and smiled inwardly. This kid, he's still worrying about my feelings. His friend had no idea what Jianyang was truly capable of. Buddy, the intensity of my skills is far beyond anything you can imagine. In his previous life, among all the skill orbs he had ever obtained, only S-rank skill orbs were capable of increasing the level of my skill Modify. Unfortunately, S-rank skill orbs were unbelievably rare, and on top of that, he had spent much of his life imprisoned. Because of those circumstances, Modify had only managed to reach level 3. It was then explained that skill orbs are special items divided into 6 ranks, from E rank all the way to S rank. They can only be obtained by defeating magical beasts, making them incredibly rare and unbelievably expensive. Their greatest value lies in their ability to upgrade a person's skills. Even so, Jianyang knew just how extraordinary his own ability was. A level 3 Modify was already capable of modifying genuine treasures, something that ordinary pseudo-type equipment could never hope to compare with. The only problem was that obtaining skill orbs was far from easy. Only genuine top-tier boss-type magical beasts had a chance of dropping them. Thinking about this, Jianyang sighed to himself. For now, I can only ask around in the black market, although I probably won't even be able to afford one. Just as he was lost in thought, a loud voice suddenly called out from behind him. Hey, don't say such depressing things! Jianyang turned around in confusion. What depressing things? Is he talking about me saying that God is unfair? As he looked over, he saw the principal standing there with a smile on his face. The principal spoke in a firm yet encouraging tone. Kid, even though you're only F rank, you're already sitting at the top of the points leaderboard. Your strength is obvious to everyone. Standing beside him, Jianyang's friend was completely stunned. The Chuni principal has never praised anyone like this before. Jiangyan is the very first, he thought in disbelief. Jianyang, however, remained calm and replied, but arena matches are different. After all, his friend nearly panicked after hearing that response. Hey, that's the principal standing right in front of us! Hurry up and show a little more respect, he screamed inwardly. The principal simply smiled before asking, So are you planning to admit defeat? Watching the exchange, the vice principal silently thought, This kid actually has some self-awareness. Jianyang suddenly grinned before confidently declaring, Admit my ass! The title of Nanrong City's top scorer belongs to none other than me. The principal immediately burst into laughter. I knew it. Without another word, he casually wrapped an arm around both Jianyang and his friend before saying, You two, come with me. This time, our number 1 middle school has prepared a special training program exclusively. For the students who entered the top 100, our experts will personally provide you with practical combat training. A short while later, everyone gathered inside the number 1 middle school indoor martial arts hall. Standing before all the students, the principal announced, Good. Each grade head will be responsible for the practical combat training of 3 students. Our number 1 middle school has a total of 10 students who made it into the top 100. These 9 will be assigned accordingly. Around the hall stood many outstanding students whose rankings were among the highest in the city. One of the instructors stepped forward and declared, All right, leave these 9 to us. This concerns your future, so don't expect us to show any mercy. In actual combat, rigorous theory provides clear judgment and reasoning. This is extremely important. At that moment, one of the students raised his hand and spoke up. Report, I have a question. The principal nodded. Go ahead, the student immediately asked. Does Jiang not need practical combat training? Why is he just relaxing over there by himself? Hearing the question, the principal smiled before answering, his practical combat instructor is different from yours. I will personally lead his training and provide him with practical combat guidance. The entire hall instantly fell silent. One of the teachers stared at the principal in complete disbelief before exclaiming, Personally guided by you in practical combat, principal? Another teacher couldn't hide his shock. Principal Ouyang Li is one of the 12 guardian deities of Nanrong City, a grandmaster who has already reached the astonishing level 61 ever since I started teaching at number 1 middle school. Not a single student has ever received personal guidance from the principal. Everyone present understood just how unbelievable this privilege truly was. Meanwhile, Jianyang's thoughts were completely different from everyone else's. One of Nanrong City's 12 guardian deities is going to personally guide me? Could it be that he wants to test the true extent of my abilities? I have a bad feeling this chuny old man definitely has some hidden intentions. For the first time in a while, Jianyang looked genuinely uneasy. A bead of sweat slowly rolled down his forehead as he silently stared at the smiling principal, unable to shake the feeling that something troublesome was about to happen. Just then, the teacher looked at the remaining students and called out, Everyone follow me. We're moving to the outdoor training grounds. As the group began leaving the indoor stadium, one student suddenly stopped and shouted in frustration. Mr. Chan, how is that fair? It's one thing for the principal to train that kid personally, but now he gets the entire indoor stadium to himself? His voice echoed with obvious resentment. None of the other students dared to say anything, but it was clear that many of them shared the same thoughts. Watching the scene unfold, Jianyang's friend could only sigh to himself. Damn it! This guy is just looking for trouble again, but he's not wrong. It's just Jiangyan alone in there, while the 9 of us get kicked out. Before anyone else could respond, the female disciple calmly stepped forward and said, If you manage to take first place on the leaderboard, this stadium will be all yours. The student froze on the spot, completely caught off guard by her reply, but she wasn't finished yet. Looking at him with complete confidence, she added, Stop whining like a child. You painfully average guy. Those words landed like a direct blow. The student's face instantly turned red with anger, yet he couldn't come up with a single comeback. Meanwhile, Jianyang's friend couldn't help but grin as they walked away, laughing to himself, Ha ha, painfully average. That's some serious emotional true damage right there, and a critical hit too. Even after that, the girl kept her eyes fixed on Jiang Yan. Deep down, she was already calculating her next move. Jiang Yan took first place in both academics and combat for 3 years straight. He might have awakened as an F rank, but his actual combat power is insane. I need to get on his good side. If he manages to get into one of the nation's top 3 prestige universities, having him marry into the Qing family wouldn't be a bad idea at all. A faint smile appeared on her face as she quietly turned around and walked away, clearly satisfied with her decision. Jianyang watched everything from the side and couldn't help thinking to himself, what a vicious tongue I need to make sure I never piss her off. I'll just keep my distance. At that moment, the principal stepped forward with an excited grin and loudly announced, All right, let's kick off the first round of exclusive training for our #1 ranker, Xiang Yan. I've officially named this training program the First High Top Scorer Project, also known as the FHTSP. He proudly struck a dramatic pose as if he had just revealed the greatest project in history. The vice principal immediately looked at him with complete disbelief and snapped, You've got 1 foot in the grave. Act your age. His blunt remark completely shattered the principal's dramatic moment. Watching the exchange from the side, Zhang Yan could only think to himself, the Chuni principal, allegations just keep getting stronger. It was becoming harder and harder to deny just how over the top the principal really was. A moment later, the announcement echoed across the stadium once again. Zhang Yan, step up to the arena. Your first combat instructor will be first. High's head of the close quarters. Combat Department Ms. Zhang Yun. As soon as her name was called, a woman confidently walked onto the stage. She stood firmly inside the arena, adjusted her fighting gloves, and looked directly at Zhang Yan before saying with a calm smile, It's been a while. Zhang Yan. Then she slammed her gloves together, her fighting spirit instantly surging as she continued, But I won't be holding anything back. At that moment, her full identity was revealed before everyone watching. Name, Zhang Yun. Level 51. Class, Leopard Spirit Brawler. Rank, B rank Combat. Type after seeing Zhang Yun step into the arena. Zhang Yan walked onto the stage as well. As he faced her, he couldn't help but think to himself, My first sparring partner is Zhang, the undisputed best melee fighter in all of First High. It was then revealed why everyone respected and feared her so much. After all, Zhang Yun had been the grand champion of the Southwest Regional Awakener Combat Tournament. Throughout her career, she had beaten at least 1,000 opponents into the dirt with her overwhelming close combat skills. When the Chuni principal recruited her to become the head of the close quarters combat department, many of the teachers questioned whether she was truly qualified for the position. Zhang Yun answered every single one of those doubts the only way she knew. How by personally beating every teacher who challenged her into complete submission. That unforgettable display of strength earned her a very specific nickname throughout the entire school. The 3-punch Dream Crusher. Hearing that title alone was enough to make most people lose the will to fight. Zhang Yan could only smile bitterly to himself, throwing me to the wolves right out of the gate. You're too kind. Principal standing calmly across from him, Zhang Yun spoke in a relaxed tone. By the way, you're free to use a weapon. I'll scale my stats down to match your level. What level are you sitting at now? Zhang Yan answered without hesitation. I hunted a lot of beasts during the preliminaries, so I'm currently level 22. The moment those words left his mouth, both the principal and vice principal were visibly surprised. The principal stared at him in disbelief and thought, this kid actually leveled up twice just from the preliminaries. Even the vice principal couldn't hide his amazement. Interesting. He treated the exam grounds as his own personal farming zone. This is the power of national-level resources. It was supposed to be just an exam, but he had endless monsters to hunt, with Paragon tier elites secretly ensuring everyone's safety. In an environment like that, it'd be harder not to get stronger. Jongwon nodded with clear approval after hearing his answer. A confident smile appeared on her face as she said, "Impressive! You were only level 20 before the exam started, exploiting every possible resource to get stronger. That's the Jongyan I know." She then raised her fists into a fighting stance, her eyes becoming sharp and focused as the atmosphere around the arena instantly turned serious. "I'll keep the rules for this session simple." She looked Zhang Yan straight in the eyes before calmly declaring, "Beat me and you pass." Yan slowly drew his sword and settled into his fighting stance. Looking straight at Zhang Yun, he said with complete confidence, "Then excuse me for not holding back. Ms. Zhang." Deep down, he reminded himself, "If I want to secure even more resources, I have to push myself harder." Zhang has been my close quarters combat instructor for 3 years. Whether in my past life or this one, I've never beaten her. But with the combat experience I gained after reaching level 70 in my past life, I can definitely do it this time. The moment that thought crossed his mind, he burst forward at full speed, launching the first attack without any hesitation. However, Zhang Yun's reaction was far beyond his expectations. In an instant, she closed the distance between them with incredible speed and threw a devastating punch straight at Zhang Yan's face. The impact was so overwhelming that he was sent flying backward, tumbling across the arena before crashing onto the ground. Every muscle in his body screamed in pain. Struggling to catch his breath, he slowly forced himself back onto his feet and muttered, "Zhang really is absurdly strong." Even so, the fire in his eyes never disappeared. Despite the unbearable pain and the enormous gap between them, he clenched his weapon even tighter. "Even so, I won't give up." Outside the arena, the repeated sounds of heavy impacts echoed throughout the building. The students training outside couldn't help but notice them. One student looked around in confusion and asked, "What is that sound?" The female disciple calmly replied, "It sounds like someone wailing on a punching bag." The jealous student immediately scoffed and said, "Don't tell me the principal is just making that Jiang Yan kid hit a bag. Pathetic. An F-rank loser like him wouldn't get any stronger. Even if he wrecked 100 punching bags." The teacher, standing nearby, suddenly frowned after hearing those words. "I know that sound way too well. My physical combat department is basically a subordinate branch to the actual live combat department. I used to be a top contender for the live combat grade head position, until I took a punch from that woman. When her fists hit a human body, that's the exact sound it makes." Realizing that all of the students had stopped training just to listen, he immediately shouted, "Quit eavesdropping and focus! Back to your training." Even after everyone returned to practice, those frightening impacts continued echoing from the indoor stadium. Back inside the arena, the principal watched the brutal sparring match with wide eyes and quietly said, "It's no wonder that kid took first place." The vice principal, equally stunned, stared at Jiang Yan and muttered, "This brat, how is he still standing after all this?" Jiang Yan himself could barely remain on his feet. His entire body was covered in bruises. Every breath felt painful and his vision had started to blur. Even so, he refused to collapse. Inside his mind, he admitted, "I severely underestimated you." Watching him struggle to remain standing, everyone realized the same thing. He was so badly beaten that he could barely stay on his feet. At this point, he was moving purely through sheer willpower. Seeing his condition, Zhang Yun lowered her guard slightly and asked, "Do you want to call it a night and pick this up tomorrow? You aren't beating me tonight." Despite his battered body and exhausted state, Zhang Yan answered without the slightest hesitation, "No breaks. The top 100 tournament is in 3 days. I don't have time to rest. I'm already confident I can take you down." Hearing those fearless words, Shangwon gave a faint smile before replying, "I've heard plenty of people say that before you, but not a single one of them has ever managed to do it. In close quarters combat, this is my greatest strength." The very next second, she exploded forward once again and unleashed another terrifying punch. The impact was even heavier than before, leaving Jiang Yan's condition even worse as his body was thrown back by the force, but this time everything was going according to Jiang Yan's plan. Instead of resisting the impact, he endured it, waiting for the exact moment he had been looking for. The instant Zhang Yun's momentum carried her forward, Jiang Yan seized the opportunity. Using the force of the previous blow, he spun his body and unleashed a powerful kick with perfect timing. At first, Zhang Yun instinctively tried to block it, but the angle and timing were flawless. She couldn't defend against it at all. Jiang Yan's eyes sharpened as he thought, "This is exactly what I planned." By using Zhang Yun's own momentum against her, he had created a single decisive opening. Using her own momentum against her for a one-hit kill with absolute confidence, Zhang Yun declared, "Zhang, the one winning this spar is me." Seeing this, both the principal and vice principal say at the same time, to think he pulled off a trick like that. This kid really pushed himself that far? Just then, an announcement echoes throughout the arena. Opponent Zhang Yun has fallen out of the ring. Zhang Yun passes. Jiang Yan is still standing by gripping the corner of the ring, barely able to keep himself upright. He looks toward the trainer and asks, "Miss Zhang, is she going to be all right?" Meanwhile, the principal looks down at Zhang Yun and thinks to himself, "I worked so hard to recruit her. I know her temper better than anyone. She's fiercely competitive and hates losing. Now that she's lost to a student, she's going to be throwing a fit for days. Oh, little Yun, you have to understand. This is all a necessary sacrifice for First High to secure the top scorer title." Zhang Yun, who has fallen outside the ring, suddenly starts laughing loudly. Seeing this, the principal is shocked and immediately thinks, "Oh crap, did she just snap? Is she laughing out of pure rage? If she tries to take this out on Zhang Yan, I'll protect him even if it costs me my life. I have to protect my star pupil." The principal, who had been speaking with an extremely serious expression, suddenly sees Zhang Yun raise her voice and say, "You little brat. I can't believe you actually used my own momentum against me. That was brilliant. You're even crazier than I was at your age." After hearing all those compliments, Zhang Yan replies, "You aren't exactly a pushover yourself, Miss Zhang. You nearly beat me to death." After hearing this, Zhang Yun becomes even more curious, so she directly asks him, "Still, I'm curious. How did you come up with that? You even calculated the exact amount of force needed to knock me out of bounds." Zhang Yan, who is in an extremely battered condition after taking so many hits, finally explains his reasoning. He looks toward Zhang Yun and says, "You're an agility-focused leopard spirit brawler. In a pure test of speed, I don't stand a chance. And it's no secret that your raw physical strength is absolutely terrifying. But the more we fought, or rather, the more you beat me into the ground, the more I realized something. You were putting everything you had into avoiding taking hits, which means that compared to your overwhelming strength, your physical defense is incredibly frail." The condition of Zhang Yan is clearly visible on his face, with every small injury showing just how badly he had been beaten throughout the fight. After listening to his explanation, Zhang Yun simply responds, "You could have figured that out just by looking at my build." Hearing Zhang Yun's words, Zhang Yan calmly replies in a low voice, "No, you're missing the point. I'm talking about the ratio of your strength to your defense." After hearing this, the vice principal immediately explains, what the kid is saying is that his own strength might not have been enough to break through her guard, but by redirecting Miss Zhang's massive strength back at her, it was more than enough to take her down. Zhang Yun, who is also quite shocked by his explanation, looks at him and asks, "So you were plotting this entire sequence while actively getting beaten to a pulp?" Despite his terrible condition, Zhang Yan simply smiles and answers, "Exactly. It was the only way I could ever win against you in close quarters combat. Trying to overpower you with my own counterattacks would have been completely impossible." At the same time, Zhang Yan thinks to himself, of course it'd be impossible. For the past 3 years, she's always suppressed her level to spar with me every single time. I tried to win with my own strength, and every single time, I got completely destroyed. Using the arena ropes to rebound her force was a spur-of-the-moment idea. But it was born from everything she's taught me over the last 3 years. It might have been a bit of a cheap shortcut, but taking it made me realize something crucial. Zhang Yun listens to every word with a deeply surprised expression, quietly staring at Zhang Yan as he continues to think. When facing an opponent vastly stronger than you can't just fight harder. You have to fight smarter and use their power against them. If an F rank like me wants to win, I have to think 10 steps ahead of everyone else. Lately, I've been relying way too much on my modify skill and my combat experience from my past life. If I truly want to protect everything I hold dear, I need to surpass my past life. I need to become something infinitely stronger." Zhang Yun looks at Zhang Yan with a smile, and at the same time, she thinks to herself, what an incredible kid. For an F-rank awakener to win, they have to sacrifice so much more than anyone else. Just enduring that level of agony until I finally let my guard down. A normal person would have broken long before that. But not only did he endure the pain, he was hyper-focused the entire time, waiting for that split-second opening to launch a counterattack. He truly is remarkable. Absolutely remarkable. With that, Zhang Yun slowly rises to her feet and looks toward Zhang Yan before saying, "Zhang Yan, my trial, you've passed it fair and square." She then begins removing her boxing gloves, and after taking them off, she looks directly at Zhang Yan and gives him a thumbs up to show her approval. Seeing this, the principal is completely stunned and thinks to himself, Zhang Yun, the woman who looks down on almost everyone, just gave a student a thumbs up of approval? This is like watching the sun rise in the west. Meanwhile, Zhang Yan is in terrible condition after taking such a brutal beating, and he can barely remain standing. His body is trembling, and with a weak, shaky voice, he looks toward Zhang Yun and says, "Ms. Zhang, thank you for the guidance. I'll carry the lessons from this fight with me for the rest of my life." After seeing everything that has happened, Zhang Yun herself thinks, this boy is really something else. At the same time, the principal also watches Zhang Yan with a completely different attitude and thinks to himself, good kid. He's a real man. I think I've had him completely wrong this whole time. Standing nearby, the vice principal also looks toward Zhang Yan and thinks, he might be an F rank, but he's truly someone special. With that, the vice principal begins walking toward the arena. Seeing him approach, the principal immediately calls out, hey, old Zhu, your training session with him isn't supposed to start until tomorrow. The vice principal continues forward, until he is standing directly in front of Zhang Yan. Zhang Yan looks at him, wondering to himself, what does the vice principal want? He's always looked at me like I was dirt. Without saying much, the vice principal suddenly reaches into his pocket and takes something out. He holds it out toward Zhang Yan and says, this is a tendon renewal pill. It was concocted by a level 60 pharmacist. Take this and you'll be completely back to normal by tomorrow. The moment the principal sees the pill, his eyes widen in complete shock, and his mouth practically hangs open as he thinks to himself, a tendon renewal pill. It requires a pharmacist over level 60 and a massive amount of rare monster materials to refine. A single pill costs tens of thousands, and in all of Nanrong City, only the mighty Chamber of Commerce branch sells them. And even then, it's by reservation only. I can't believe old Zhu actually gave him something like that. Zhang Yan looks at the valuable pill in surprise and asks, something this valuable? Are you sure you want to give this to me? However, the vice principal simply places the pill directly into Zhang Yan's hand and immediately turns around to leave. Watching him walk away, Zhang Yan becomes even more suspicious and thinks to himself, what exactly is the vice principal scheming here? Hasn't he always despised me because of my trash-tier class? The vice principal then stops, turns his head back toward Zhang Yan, and says, go home and get some proper rest. Don't be late for tomorrow's training. Hearing this, Zhang Yan thinks to himself once again, turns out the teachers at First High really aren't that bad after all. Then, as the vice principal continues walking away, Zhang Yan calls out from behind him, I promise I won't be late. The vice principal stops and looks back at him before saying, then you'd better mentally prepare yourself as First High's strongest mage. I absolutely refuse to go easy on you. Hearing those words, Zhang Yan looks toward him with determination, clenches his fist tightly and replies, that's exactly what I was hoping to hear, because to defeat you, I'll be bringing everything I've got.